these guys were just big, really strong guys who lift in the gym. They're super strong, super athletic. That was sort of what I wanted to be. And I realized, like, I'm like a skinny 73 kilo guy. Like, I need to lift some weights. I need to hit the gym.
Yeah.
My dad was like, time to hit the gym. And I didn't track calories. I didn't track shit. I did his exact training plan for 4.5 months.
Oh,
and I put on
gold.
31 kilos. I put on 31 kilos.
This is gold.
I went from 70 to 72 kilos to 101.
Oh.
You know, a lot of us in life, we always have a goal. From my experience over the past few years, I prepped 4 times before I did this show start this year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
And every single time I did those competitions or those preps, I was always so fixated with, I just want to get on stage. I just want to get on stage. I just want to get on stage. I want to win. I want to do this. I want to do that. Muscular Development magazine. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I was just watching it on like a Friday night. I was like 15, 16. I'm like, I felt like
he's meant to do this, Chris.
You know, I haven't told anyone this, no other podcasts, not even my Instagram followers. Or a week before I won my pro card, I had a dream I was on stage and I won it.
As once LL Cool J sung, I'm gonna knock you out. Well, that was both growing up and competing on stage. Perfection is not attainable, but excellence we can. The heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. He knows the 3 reasons why your chest ain't growing at the gym. No belt, 300 kilo deadlift. What the fuck? Say bro pros posing 3 times fast. He prepared 4 times and mistakenly believing he still needs to earn his pro card. Ballet, Warhammer 40K, and Lego. He's got the memory of an elephant, the good and the bad of COVID. Here we are today. Please help me welcome, don't fit in, don't be a people pleaser, believe in yourself, IFBB Pro Classic Physique, Jaxon Guerin.
Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure. That's an awesome intro. I love that.
Did you get it?
Posing, it's like 3 times fast.
Yeah, you say that.
I started picking up and I was like, oh yeah, I know what that means. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
That posing, I'm going to try that now with all of my posing clients. Say it 3 times really fast. Oh man, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, mate. I appreciate it too. Well, I guess we were talking about, I think I was saying to you, we're talking about your hair. We're talking about blonde hair, right? We're talking about, who was the bodybuilder again? What was his name again? Gert? Erg, yeah. So I can never say his name. And the fact that you thought, why not give it a go and do blonde hair? And then I told you how I did crimson on my hair and a little bit of a pity story. I was saying that no one gets me. I seem like an extrovert, but I just want to make Steve happy. And I think you were saying something like in this sport, there's a lot of judgment.
Yeah. And I think like it's interesting because, you know, we're in such a subjective sport where, yes, you are judged for how you look on stage. And I think that's completely fine. But, you know, unfortunately, there is sort of a spectrum that we sort of allow it to take over on how we also perceive ourselves. And I think that's why, you know, a lot of people also enter this sport as well for, you know, extrinsic reasons, meaning like, you know, I want to get in shape. I want to look good for this girl, you know, at this party, or I just want to look good at school. And that's completely fine. But I think it gets to a point where, you know, you can become so caught up in how you look. So, you know, it's something that I preach a lot to younger males, especially, because I think, you know, younger women also experience body issues. But I think for men, it's gotten so out of control lately where, you know, we look at social media, we open up our phone, look at TikTok, and we look at all these guys, these influencers, or these high-level bodybuilders, or, you know, IFBB pros. And, you know, I used to be in that position when I was younger, and I was like, you know, I want to look like them so bad. I want to have so much muscle. I want to, you know, look amazing. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's interesting topic because, you know, yes, it can be a driving force, but there is also sort of a spectrum where, we start to cross the line of, how hard are we pushing ourselves? And I think that's why also too, having, more intrinsic values, I believe personally, on just making sure that, you're not an outcome driven individual. And this is something that I actually put up on my social media last night or yesterday, explaining how, as humans, if we're so fixated on the outcome of a process rather than the character and the person that we develop throughout that process, it's always going to lead to disappointment. And it's something that I can completely agree on. But I'm not sure about you, everyone might be different, but I think that's just, for me, that's something that kept me going in the sport for a long period of time, is the discipline I developed, the habits that are instilled in me, and my lifestyle, the way I act as a person, as a role model to younger people who look up to me. Hopefully they do. Things like that. I think it's a very, very important factor. And I think a lot of people, don't really grasp that reality, because I believe that, when you're given that pro card, or, you have a large platform, for example, I think, without actually like receiving the mantle of responsibility, we sort of attain it through those things. And I think that's why it's important to look at those factors, because, when you have 10 million followers, all of a sudden, you can't just really post what you want, because now what you're posting has a large impact on people. So, but that's also a great thing about it, is that you have the ability to help people too. So, yeah.
Yeah, Again, I the only reason I say my age is just to differentiate. You're 25, correct?
Yeah, it's 25 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that one is that's when you develop. You are at the point. I'll tell you what 25 is. You want me to tell you what 25 is? This is what you're thinking. What the fuck have I done? What have I done with my life? That's where you're at. Yeah. How come I don't have a mansion now? And why aren't I married and children? What am I? I'm a loser. How much money have I got in my bank? That's ridiculous. That's what 25 is. I've been there, man. I
know.
So that's
it's funny, because everyone has that year where they have this little crisis, and I'm not gonna lie,
25 is
when I turned 25 in July, it was a few months after winning my pro card, and I remember I was actually sitting there I haven't done enough. And looking back on that now, I'm incredibly disappointed to say that, because someone's probably looking at my position of where I've come as an individual and be like, as if you would think that. So I believe that, honestly, it's the whole emphasis of who you are becoming as a person is so important, because we tend to look at, we compare ourselves to other people's lives. And I think that's possibly one of the most dangerous things to do, because I think that everyone has their own process and their own journey that they go through. And I can completely agree with you. It's something that I experienced when I was a bit younger as well. It's I need to be a millionaire. I need to have a house. I need to have children. I need to have a family. But I believe that all these things do come in good time. And, for someone it's also, for me, I'm incredibly blessed to have great people around me. I'm getting married next year.
Yep, congratulations.
I've been with my fiance since, thank you. We've been together since high school. So, having very supportive family and friends around me has definitely been a great factor in sort of allowing me to sort of just quickly, just when I enter those moments of I haven't done enough, I'm not doing enough, where I'm accepting that, hey, I've got goals that I've set and I want to achieve, but I can't be in a state of pity, of self-pity. So it's great that I have good people around me to pull me out of that very quickly.
Yeah, I think just listening to you and a lot of you guys, you seem so mature. I think you forget that, Chris is 24, and sometimes when I hang with Chris, I think Chris has learnt with me, he's not going to beat my decades of experience. You're never going to beat it. As much as you think you know it, and I think at 55, we automatically get wisdom. A 70-year-old automatic. What they do with wisdom is a different story. What I mean is there are 70-year-olds that are pricks. There are 55-year-olds that are pricks. There are miserable people everywhere. But what I found is a few things. One, people turn a certain age, like 25 or 30, but they actually die, hear me out, and they're buried at 80. They don't do anything after that. They play safe. It's just it's a practice run, or I'll get it right next life, or the superannuation looks so good. If I put aside this much money at 75, I'll be able to go on a European trip and get myself a brand new car. I grew up in that kind of family, right? That was but what I've realized, most people are miserable. I don't mean to say it like that. And I will say, if you don't have a higher power, you're miserable. That's it. Because I'm rich and I'm rich internally. I know people who are rich externally but are poor internally, and you just got to learn that you're never going to make it. You're just getting there, and if you keep going with that mentality, and I'm excited for you guys that are so mature. I'll just say, don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay. You got plenty of time, bro. You got plenty of time. Yeah. You're going to do it at 35. You're going to do it at 32. You're going to do it at 38. You're going to do it at 40. You could take a moment. Don't let it, trust me, it's the long game. I used to, like I said, oh man, I've had so much money. I've had no money. I've had so much money. I've had no money. I've had cars that I thought, oh my God, that's a collectible. And then I've had to sell it. And then I've got more collectibles and then I sell them. And then I've got more collectibles. And now I've got too many.
The roller coaster of life.
So just know you can let go and you can go get. And you can let go and you can go get. So just know that, just like I said, because... Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, who is following us on all platforms, but especially here on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please, if you could do us a big favor, which helps us reach more people, get better, bigger, greater. We've already had some great guests anyway. Everyone's been a treat. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified every week a new podcast that is launched. And I just want to say a big thank you. But again, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and enjoy watching Muscle Talks podcasts. And I think this bodybuilding world that I've watched, do you know, I was just telling someone last week, do you know bodybuilding for us was a chore? It was painful and we didn't like it. No, I'm telling you, what I'm saying to you is, when we went to the gym, we were scared. And I'll tell you why we were scared, because we pushed so hard it hurt us. So it wasn't fun. You know what was fun? Nightclubs, girls, dancing, cars, pizza at midnight. That was fun. But the gym was like a job. So when we rocked up there, we'd go, fuck, man, we've got legs today. Fuck, no way, legs today. Fuck, legs. It was like that. Fuck, we got back today. No way, fuck, back. Jeez, quick, let's get the fuck out of here. And we'd go in there and we'd come out, no joke, because everything's air conditioned now, so it's different. Then it was no air conditioning. We came out dripping. We were dripping and you stunk. That's how it was. That's how it was. And that's all we knew. We'd rock up. Everyone was dressed like shit. No one was in designer clothing. Maybe we had MC Hammer pants for a little while. We wore some MC Hammer pants.
My dad had some.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, and that's when we thought we were rich, and Air Jordans pumps. We got not Air Jordans, Reebok pumps.
Oh, wow.
And when you pumped them, you could stop blood circulation and they have to amputate your foot. That's how bloody tight the pump was. It was hilarious. So we had, so we would wear Reebok pumps and we thought we made it, and MC Hammer pants. That was it, us at the gym. So it was a crazy world. So when I look at it now, which is wonderful, but there's so, I'm sorry to say it in some ways, but it just seemed like everyone looks amazing. Like, fuck. I was at the gym yesterday. I hadn't gone for a while, went back. And trust me, man, I just sniffed it when I walked in and I got big. I think I put on another 2 kilos. And I felt great seeing the big boys, and the beautiful, and the girls, everything. I felt like home, but no one understands bodybuilding's the longest game of your life. You're going to do it when you're 80. And you want to be doing it when you're 80. You want to do it when you're 70. You want to do it when you're 50, because you're 50 years old stronger than the average 50-year-old guy, because he's not pushing, he's not doing resistance, he's not breaking down muscle, he's not pushing testosterone, he's not eating well. You are, and you're going to be alone at that age. But will you keep going while everyone's partying, going over? So that's what I'm saying is bodybuilding's such a long game. That's why I said to you, you'll be in, you'll be out. As long as... Sorry, you'll be 100% in, a little bit, not out, but a little bit. Just know you're in the game.
Push and pull.
Yeah, you got to go push and pull, man, or else you're just gonna pull the pin and believe the gym was too intense. It's too much. But mate, it's the best place you can turn up to. That's for me anyway.
For sure. Do you think when you were training all those years ago, do you feel like the gym environment was better than what it was today? Or do you think just because they're so different, you can't really compare the two?
I think today everyone's an expert. We weren't experts. None of us were. We never proclaimed to know a chest workout. We never proclaimed anything. And to be honest, the only guys we spoke to was competitors. They told us.
Yeah, for sure.
We trusted competitors. They were on stage. We didn't even trust the personal trainers. We just trusted competitors. So I'd go to Terry Mitsos or a big guy, even a Lee Priest or anyone. I'd say, fuck, what should I do? And you know what they'd say to me? Honestly, they go, how many eggs you're eating? Trust me, how many eggs you're eating? And I said, I don't know, how many do I need to eat in the morning? He'd go, at least minimum half a dozen. I ate half a dozen eggs for 10 years. And my mum and dad organised a farmer to bring pallets because it was too expensive to go to Coles. So we'd got a farmer.
Sure.
Yeah, my parents got a farmer to bring eggs to the house. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. And it's so true. Like everyone, unfortunately, a lot of people do think they're experts or, and I think now in the society, like it's great. We have social media, we've got the internet, we've got YouTube. We've got many platforms to sort of look for information. But I think the problem is a lot of people, again, they think they have knowledge, but again, they lack practical application of it. Yeah. So, and that's like what you mean in regards to being like a pro athlete. It's like, you wouldn't really, if someone plays, Monday night basketball at the community center, you're not really going to ask them how do I shoot a 3-pointer?
Yeah.
If you came across the head coach of the LA Lakers or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, you'd probably want to ask them how to shoot a basketball.
Or someone that played it professionally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because even if they might not have the actual knowledge, like on explaining, interpreting something properly, they still have the application of it. So they've done it thousands of times. It's like, and that's so true. Going up to competitors, like my father, he was an ex-Olympic athlete, and he was associated with sponsored by Findlay's gym. But this is long before Doherty's.
And what did your dad do? Firstly, tell us about your dad's Olympian thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, he competed at the 1992 Winter Olympics in France.
Yep.
He did speed skiing. So he was the fastest speed skier in Australia. So he just go down a hill, of course, as fast as possible. Yeah. And he was incredibly strong. He's a bit of a smaller guy, like my brother. Like they're around 5'10". I'm like 6'2", 6'3". But like for him, he was incredibly strong. And he was training at the time. And, he would always see Tony and Sonny Schmidt walking around, like just training and stuff. And, he would say how like they trained hard and they were massive back in the day. And, like even at Doherty's, like I see all the old pictures of Tony. I'm like to Tony, buddy, man, you're massive. He's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, would you do it again? And I think that's why like back then in that era, I actually sometimes miss being, I miss just being born in 1999. I would have loved to be born like 79 or something because by that time it's like the 90s, peak bodybuilding. 90s. And I love that camaraderie.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think that, when I look at, I have not met Tony Doe. I've seen him say hello, but I haven't had anyone yet. But when I see Tony, he should carry the torch. His love affair with bodybuilding is above everyone else's, even mine. So I wouldn't think anyone shouldn't be the guy running that IFBB. I mean, all the other ones are good too, A and B. I've got no problem with everyone else. But what I'm getting at is this guy lives and breathes it. I mean, like even all you guys with your pro cards, which is great, but Tony really lets you be Bon Jovi. Tony's a great. What's the guy in the middle of the circus that runs the circus? What do you call him?
Showman.
Yeah, he's a showman. It's a showman. I think there is a name. Not Mastro, not. Chris is thinking about it, but there's something about a circus. something. But anyway, he's really good at that. So let's well, your latest IG post in your story said becoming obsessed with an outcome over the person who you become during the process will always lead to disappointment. So becoming obsessed with an outcome instead of over the person who you become during the process will always lead to disappointment. What does that mean?
Well, it just really honestly explains how, a lot of us in life, we always have a goal.
Yeah.
And that's great. The thing is that, from my experience over the past few years, I prepped 4 times before I did this show start this year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
And every single time I did those competitions or those preps, I was always so fixated with, I just want to get on stage. I just want to get on stage. I just want to get on stage. I want to win. I want to do this. I want to do that. I was never like, I want to get up tomorrow and just do what I love. And the one thing I believe that with a lot of us, when it comes to even our work, our training, the way we carry ourselves on a day-to-day basis, we always look at what are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing next week? What am I doing? What's my next meal? What's my next competition? When's my next cardio session? And I think that, it's great to have structure, but, I believe, honestly, the way we carry ourselves throughout that process is so much more important than the end result. And I know that it's incredibly rich from someone like myself who didn't lose any division start of this year, but, it really did change my outlook on the way I approached everything. So, when things got really tough on prep, there were times where I cried, and I think everyone cries.
Yeah.
But,
do they?
It was more about, I don't know. I'm fairly an unemotional person.
Yeah,
my fiance can agree with that. Yeah. But, it's something that, her and I have really bonded well over, is the fact that we can just communicate well. But,
I like that.
when I was on that prep, I said to myself, because I also just became a recent Catholic. I also got baptized on Easter Sunday.
Yep.
Easter Sunday, Saturday.
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday. I keep forgetting. Oh my gosh.
It doesn't matter. You became one.
and throughout that process, when I was doing Bible study, our coordinator, Jenny, she's a lovely lady. She's a beautiful lady. And she was explaining how throughout our life, we're on a journey with God. Yeah. And that journey is meant to be loved and cherished as much as possible. And the way you carry yourself throughout that journey is the most important thing. The good deeds you do, the way you treat others, the way you hold yourself high, the way you act towards others. And instantly, my whole mindset just shifted. This is literally about a year ago when I just started dieting. And for me, I just realized that's it. That's what I've been looking for 5 years. Is it's not about the end result. It's not about winning a pro card. It's not about getting to an Olympia. It's not about competing on the day. It's about just enjoying my life and enjoying what I love to do. And instantly, it just completely shifted my mindset. My anxiety was pretty much completely gone at that time already. And I just started loving what I did. I just loved getting up and going, okay, we've got 30 minutes cardio today. Let's go to the gym, quickly get that done, come back, have a coffee, do some more check-ins for all my clients, get to work, just enjoy the day. And for me, I think that's the biggest thing, is that, when we have a goal, it's completely fine to have that goal and work really hard towards it. But you can't also define who you are as a person based off that result. So I think it's more about, if I've done a prep and let's say I came second, let's say I lost the pro card, but who did I become throughout that process? Or if I'm trying to make $1 million, or if I'm trying to buy a house, or if I'm trying to supply and support my family, how do I become throughout that process? And so that's the one thing that really shifted my ability to get things done and also not be a procrastinator anymore, and, just become very productive with how I enjoy my day. And for me, it actually, it just blossomed my relationships even more, because a lot of people become very introverted on prep, or, they like to hide away from people. They don't want to be a burden for others. But I realized that all of a sudden my relationships with people that I was with was incredible. And even on peak week for both shows, man, I had so much fun. I was just chilling out with my friends. We're just having a shisha, and we're just relaxing, or we're playing video games, watching some TV shows together. And those are the memories that I will never, ever forget. And because the days of the shows, they're incredibly fleeting. And I still remember them, but not as much as those moments that I had with my friends where I just enjoyed the little things. So yeah, and I think that's a very important thing for me. So, that's pretty much how I would explain that. Just be a process-driven individual, not an outcome-driven person. So yeah.
So since you've brought it up, and I'm sure people would wonder, and that's why I'm flicking. So if you ever see me looking down at my notes, it's only because I've got so many notes, and I try to segue into them all. So you prepped 4 times, and you failed each time due to anxiety, injuries, and health reasons. And when I read that, it kind of spoke to me about why maybe I never competed. And I think even to today, there's certain things about competing against people out in the open that I don't enjoy. I'm a little bit of a silent assassin. I'm a little bit more covert, but CIA in business, and I tend to do and then show it. So I like 2 extremes. I would buy property and then tell my wife I bought some property. And she goes, but how did you plan for that? I said, yeah, I know. She goes, I've been planning for the process for like the last 3 months. But the reason I didn't tell her, not because I was trying to be secretive, it's all talk. I'm all show. But when you've got to tell people you're coming to a comp or you've got to show up, I think it gives me anxiety and I saw fear. So tell me about that. Yeah, 4 times, and the anxiety and the injuries and the heart health reasons. Go ahead.
Well, it's it all started off with the start of 2021 prep for season 8. So I got to 3 weeks out, and this is all my fault. This is my ability to not communicate at the time with my coaches back then. But, my first prep I ever did essentially, I did a trial peak, and through that, I sort of dabbled with diuretics, and unfortunately, I wasn't communicating as much as I should have, and that led to me sort of like about a week later, I started to get incredibly just tired, and I'm like, this must be my first prep. It's pretty normal. I was very behind, which I was fine with, so I was fine to do all the extra cardio and diet really hard, but it got to a point where I just couldn't move. Like I literally could not get out of bed. And it was like every single walking step, I was fighting my ability to do stuff. And all of a sudden, I started taking check-in photos every week. And I'm like, I look fatter. I look like I put on body fat. And about 10 days after doing that trial peak and taking those diuretics, I basically put on about 10 kilos. So I went from like 106 to like 115, 116 kilos. And it was just all water. So basically it was an electrolyte issue with diuretics due to the premise of I was taking like potassium sparing diuretics, but then, I was loading up potassium heaps as well and then still flushing it out with something else like some clenbuterol. And from what I remember, so it was my ability to just not communicate with what I was doing. Yeah. So, and at that time it was really scary. Like I honestly felt like at one point, like I feel like I need to go to the hospital, but I was talked out of by some people I know to not go. So I was like, this is not right. So I don't know why I didn't go. That was incredibly stupid. And I think that's why, like for me, I just took things in my own hands and said, look, I just need to get all this water out of my body because it's really bad. Like I can't even bench press like 10 kilos. Like my chest would just start cramping and it felt terrible. And I just had like massive cankles and water in my joints. Yeah. And so, I pretty much just said I had to pull the pin. I'm like, look, I got to 4 days out from the show. I was actually leaner and lighter than before. But the problem was that, for me, I wasn't able to do all these cardio sessions. I missed so many training sessions. I was still 100% with my diet. But the problem was at that time was, I just felt like I didn't put in the work required to compete. So I skipped out on that and had some time off for a few months and looked at competing again for end of 2021. COVID rolls around, lockdown again, and I get incredibly stressed because I think I got a bit of PTSD from that first comp because it was really scary and I didn't want to ever put myself in that position again. Like swear to God, like if that ever happens to me again, I'd be done. So for me, it got to a point where I just said, no, I can't do this. I just need time off. I need to just grow as well. I need to just enjoy time with family and friends. It just got too much to me in the whole lockdown. It really stuffed me up and stuffed up a lot of people. But so that was 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And then basically after that, I had a really good off season. I was growing incredibly well. I felt amazing. I was ready to prep again, ready to do it. And essentially the third time was 2022.
Yeah.
So I actually went into business with 2 of my mates and we opened up a gym in Box Hill North.
Yeah.
And so that was doing really well. I was incredibly happy with the process that I was in and, the job that I had and, the businesses that were opening. And pretty much from then I said, all right, I'm going to prep. And, I ended up dieting for about 24 weeks.
Yep.
And I just got to the point where I was incredibly stressed out again. I couldn't really manage my work life and also my training. And I believe, honestly, I just wasn't ready. I was still young. I was only 21, 22.
Yep.
And I just wasn't in a place where, I would be able to really push and compete. And I was very, very food focused at the time. It was a really, really bad mindset I was in. So then again, I said, stuff it. I had another couple months off completely. I went off everything. I, just trained how I wanted. I ate what I wanted. And I actually looked pretty good. I was pretty happy with how I was doing things. And, just focusing on my work, fostering those relationships. And then I said, stuff it. I'm going to do 2023 season 8. And, Amy's like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you can do this? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can. And, yeah, I know. It got to a point, I was 10 weeks out from the first show. And, I was administered some stuff that I would never take again.
Yeah.
So obviously we know that the good old, Trini sandwich. Anyways, basically from that, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep and I had the worst anxiety of my entire life.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I actually stepped away and I said to myself, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I feel like I'm wasting years with, who I want to be, but maybe it's just not meant to be. Yeah. And so after that, I stepped away for a few months, trained again how I wanted to. And and then I found my coach, Matt Jansen. And from there, pretty much the rest is history, most people know. So that's 4 preps.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by our lovely sponsor, Pawtion, an all-natural, single-protein dog food snack company. Go to pawtion.com.au, enter Muscle Talks 25 for 25% off your first order. Enter Muscle Talks 10 for continued order.
Support not only good eating for ourselves, but I'm sure you want to promote good eating for your loved one, your pet, your dog. So go to pawtion.com.au and use for your first order Muscle Talks 25 to get 25% off your first order, and then continued orders Muscle Talks 10.
I think that I guess you're ready. You're primed. I think you're ready. I think you're primed, man. I think you're ready. I think you're ready.
I got to the point where I was just like, I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm so fed up with not competing. I'm just going to do it,
But I think, it's funny because it reminded me of, I bring it up. At 49, I decided to do my first cycle. I've never done steroids, so I thought I'd give it a go, right? I was always pretty natural. And I never competed, so it was never... I just believed if I was going to do it professionally, if I was going to do maybe sponsors, if I was going to get on stage, I think that's when I need, the high octane fuel. But so, and I guess I was a businessman, so I focused on business, a family man, kids. But I love training. I would go, like 4 o'clock in the morning to train before my kids got up and all that kind of stuff, right? And diet, I was obsessed with food at one stage, just like you. I probably needed a therapist to be able to just go eat a hamburger. If I had a hamburger, I need someone to talk to me about it, after it. Or if I had a donut, I'd need counseling because it was that bad. And I actually learned how to do affirmations now when I eat. When I feel like I've eaten something not well, I do a few affirmations and I feel good because I've given my body the okay. So I have to still do it today. I have to still do affirmations today when I splurge because I feel eating well and and training is my only go-to. And this is going to sound like, in a sense, a little selfish in some ways, but it's my only vanity point where I feel handsome and good looking is when I train and have a good body, only because I don't think I'm gifted to be a catwalk model, or I don't have the noggin for it. But to produce a physique, I can manipulate that. The face I was given by God, but the body he gave me too, but he allowed me to hit the gym and eat right. So I guess for me to turn up my best version, it's still the same noggin, but at least when I turn up to an event, I don't know about you, Jaxon, but I could turn up somewhere and I'll sit at a table with some people and all of a sudden they're talking about training and I've never brought up training, only because they look at me and they go, not because I'm like you, they just know me from history of eating healthy and going to the gym, that it's like they need to tell me their sins. Oh, I should be going to the gym more. I should be doing something about this. And I'm like, where's this coming from? So I can understand. So again, going back to taking a cycle, there was a point where the guy that was, I didn't have a coach. I had nobody. I just did it myself. I just knew where to go get it. I knew what to do. Like he gave me notes. I wrote notes, like that. And at one stage, I thought, less is more, but I thought more and more was going to make me better and bigger. And I imploded. I lost my appetite. I couldn't get off the couch. I didn't want to eat. I just lost, I wasn't sleeping like you said. It just kind of spoilt it. And I was actually thinking of competing at 50. And I just pulled the pin. That was the last time I touched it, meaning I did 2 cycles in a year. But it hasn't spooked me to think if I ever wanted to tap it again. But I did learn a valuable lesson about everything is an abuse. If you're not careful, you can abuse everything.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree, especially in the sport. It's, I think there's a saying where, God will always, give you the same lesson until you learn it. And I think that's why as well.
Yeah.
Always, I've learned it 4 times.
Yeah.
But, I think when it comes to, knowing where to draw the line is a very, very tough thing to do as an athlete, especially when, you have a very large goal and you're willing to almost do whatever it takes to get there. But you need to know when do I draw that line? And so that's why for me as well, I have my line drawn where, if it affects my relationships, my work, my family, my health, that's where I cross the line. And some people, they might not care, and that's completely fine because that's their life. They can choose as they wish. But, I think that's why as well, when it comes to things about also, if I'm taking, X amount of, whatever, and it's affecting me negatively, it's like, okay, well, my body's telling me that, it's obviously not really, it's actually doing more damage to me than good.
It is.
And I think that's why it's so important because, sometimes it's tricky to have those conversations with yourself because you sometimes think we always, again, associate bodybuilding as like, pain is progression, but not always.
No.
And that's why I think it does get convoluted though in this day and age compared to, 20, 30 years ago when it's like you just train hard and do the work and you make the results. But now it's almost like you can do things, a lot safer or a lot more optimal, as people say, and you can still make results. And like, that's completely true. But then also it's become washed out to this point where, I just need to train close to failure. Or I need to train 5 reps to failure. But it's almost gotten to this point where people actually are unable to push themselves as much as they'd like to. So, yeah, and that's the thing. So I find that, knowing how much to push and how much to pull it can be hard because, a lot of us are usually biased, and that's completely fine. That's why you have a coach. That's why you have another set of eyes, maybe, but also too, it's a great lesson as well because we need to, learn lessons in our life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just dawned on me recently, and I told Chris this as well just recently, talking to you guys and watching. Like I said, I didn't plan to have a bodybuilding podcast. This wasn't planned. Nothing was planned. Like, I just do business and this is what we're doing, and somehow it's going great, right? But, you know, we can talk about pushing, we can talk about drugs, we can talk about everything you want. But I can tell you one thing that surpasses it all. We can talk about calories in, calories out. We could talk about don't do nothing and you don't even need to go for a walk as long as you stay in your calories. But let me tell you, a shit diet is a shit feeling, and is a shit body, is a shit mind, is a shit heart, is a shit everything. Food, your fuel, is paramount. Even if you're not training, even if you're taking a break from the gym, even if you are, whatever it is, get your food right. And I'm not talking about measuring your food. I'm talking about, it's very simple to look at. You know, clean food. And let me tell you, it was an obsession of mine, which can go a bit, you could lose yourself over it. But if you want to push, fuel up. If you want to go to the gym and do more cardio, more reps, fuel accordingly. It's all about fuel. It's all about fuel. Like, it just, no one understands. It's like a car. You think just because your car looks good, it's going nowhere without fuel. You know what I mean? It's not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? And when it sits in one...
I was going to explain this bit. I was going to explain that about the whole car with the whole fuel method. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Great metaphor.
Go ahead.
Well, it's a great metaphor. Right. You know what? It's funny because the pro bodybuilder said that. I keep forgetting who it was, but they said basically, you know, it's like post-show, you can either decide to eat shit, eat whatever you want, or if you got a Ferrari, you need high octane. Yeah. You need the best fuel that there is. And it's like, where does that come from? It comes from quality food and, you know, adequate amounts of nutrients as well. That's such an important factor, you know, because I think, well, it also takes me to the point of, you know, where people want to achieve results, but, you know, you want to have abs, but, you know, you don't want to diet and eat, you know, quality food. You want to eat still whatever the fuck you want and not move at all, which makes no sense. Or it's like, you want to make a successful business, but you don't want to work 12 hours a day. Yeah. You want to work 1 hour a day. You know, things like this where, you know, when you want to create a change, there has to be a habit that has to be introduced to create that change. And I think that's why a lot of people, you know, start to say, oh, you know, I just can't get in shape. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's, you know, it's all about their mindset. And I think that's why, you know, most people in this day and age are also very unhealthy and very unfit, because it derives from this, you know, this shitty mindset, which then also, you know, affects their whole lifestyle of how they eat, what they read, you know, what they consume, what they watch, you know, the way they treat their relationships. It's a very important thing. And I think that's why, you know, when it comes to your mindset and the food you eat, those are two of the largest factors that 100% will influence the way you are as a person, also the way, how healthy you are and the way you train, the way you sleep, the way you function, exactly the way you look. So yeah, it's so true. Like, food quality is such an important factor.
I'll tell you something funny. Two things I'll say to you. So a car has a 60-gallon tank. Yep. So, and that 60-gallon tank will only get you so far, correct? So if it was just petrol was petrol, why do we have high octane petrol? Why do we have ethanol? Why do we have E10? Just give us petrol, man. It's a 60-gallon tank. It's calories in, calories out, isn't it? Isn't that what it is? But wait a minute. Lee Priest said something on the weekend when I sat with him. He said this. I said to him, were you calories in, calories out? I just asked him that question. You know what he said to me? He goes, I love food that much. He goes, I had to do more cardio because I just wanted to eat. So he had to burn it. So if you are going to eat too much, go fucking burn it. But everyone doesn't talk about that part. Yeah. So everyone says you don't need to go for walks. Everyone says you don't need to go for a run. You don't need to do the treadmill, because you're talking about not just playing safe. We're talking about just playing nothing. I mean, let's eat one donut. That's 2,000 calories. I'm joking. It's not, but let's say it's that. If that's sustainable and makes you feel good, well, which we all know it's not, but we do know that there's a difference between 2,000 calories of protein and 2,000 calories of carbs. They're totally 2,000 calories, but they're not the same function. So at the end of the day,
Exactly.
So I think,
and I think that's why
on.
when it comes,
Go on.
the intake is so important. Yeah, like, you know, when it comes to, for example, the food we eat, like, you know, there's always the ability to have some enjoyable foods here and there, which is fine, and I do that myself as well. But again, you know, you're fueling for a very important reason. Being an athlete, you have to eat like one.
Yeah.
You have to eat like a king. So I think that's a very important factor for sure. You know, I think that's something I can definitely agree on.
Haven't you ever splurged? Like you I'm sure, you tell me, it doesn't matter. Haven't you ever gone out and just overate and you thought, you know what? I'm going for a fucking walk. Because you know you need to burn some of those calories because they're going to affect, because you're not going to sleep well, you're going to roll and toss and also it's going to be a mind fuck. So you go, you know what, I'm going to go for a walk and just burn them down a bit. So you should enjoy your dinner. You should have enjoyed it. Don't go home and bash yourself. Go for a walk. Yeah. You know, so that's what I think anyway. What have we got here? Let's look at a few things here. 1 second. I'm just reading some of your. We've actually said a lot of stuff there, so I'm not going to repeat that stuff.
No, you're fine.
Oh yeah, no, I've got to read. I've got so much notes here about you, man. It's not funny. Okay. Proverb 16:9 says, "The heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." And you wrote, you were 115 kilos, 4 days post-show, that was the photo, and you said, "I'm excited to improve upon this look here. Grateful to wake up and choose to follow what God has laid out for me."
Very interesting stuff, you know. You know, I don't know if a lot of your viewers are religious or not, but, you know,
Who cares?
Who cares? You know, Who cares? I think, you know, I put up that quote because, you know, that reading because I believe, honestly, you know, a lot of us people talk about how God speaks to us, and God can speak to us in different ways, you know. And so as a Catholic, you know, it was funny because once I was baptized, you know, I, you know, started to have dreams here and there, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're just dreams, whatever. Yeah. Everyone has dreams, you know, but it got to a point where, you know, I would actually dream about competing or about being on stage, about prepping. And it was very interesting. It was probably because, you know, I'm so involved in the lifestyle, that might be why. But I looked at it in a different sort of lens where, you know, what if God's telling me that this is something that I have to do, that he wants me to do? And so I started looking at it from a point where, you know, I chose to compete because I wanted to honor God, but he was allowing it. And I feel like those past 4 preps because, you know, I used to be an atheist. I used to not believe in any God or any high power. I just was like, you know, very, very fixated on only the scientific studies regarding the outcomes of who we are, the Big Bang Theory, all those kind of things. And so for me, all of a sudden, once, you know, I had multiple dreams of me being on stage, and, you know, I haven't told anyone this, no other podcasts, not even my Instagram followers, or just my fiance and my parents. I said a week before I won my pro card, I had a dream I was on stage and I won it.
Wow.
Not because of the state show's, you know, results, but I just genuinely saw it. And it was insane because, you know, I felt like from him, he was showing me the end progress, but he wasn't showing me the way to get there. That was also up to me. And so, you know, I believe that, you know, when I have a feeling of, you know, this is something that I'm meant to do, I will always follow through on it until it's not meant to be. And so that's why for me, you know, it gives me reassurance knowing that God has set out a plan for me in my life. And this is a small chapter in my life that I'm undergoing. So, you know, some people might compete for other purposes and, you know, they might just want to do it because they love it. But for me as well, you know, I have a higher calling to myself, and that's what can make me endure through times of great stress or, you know, great hardship. And it makes my ability to push through on things a lot greater than what it used to be. And so, you know, it's even like a few weeks or about a month before the first show, you know, my, you know, fiance's non-law passed away. You know, God bless his soul. And it was incredibly hard on the family. And it really did impact me a lot. You know, I remember meeting him when I first started dating my fiance years ago when I was in high school, and he was a lovely man. He was a very, very amazing man. And, you know, it made me realize that if things like this happened, you know, in my previous preps, I probably would have used that as an excuse to pull out.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think now, on the other hand, it was for me saying, you know, I almost looked at it like God was telling me all of our lives are limited. Like our lives are so risky that no one's getting out alive.
No. Two things: taxes and death. They're two guarantees.
Death and taxes for sure. And so that sort of, you know, I look at a lot of things now that God is sort of teaching me a lesson, and you know, He's telling me like this is what I'm meant to do, and whether it's meant to work out or not, this is all a part of a greater plan that He has set for me. But also too, He's given me the freedom of choosing what I want to do in my life. You know, the freedom of choice, which is amazing, is that we all have as humans. So, you know, that was for me, you know, that's why I sort of was really big on posting that quote, because, you know, He allows me to get up every single day. Like I wake up every day. I'm so grateful for it, but I get to train. I get to eat my meals. I get to coach people. I get to help influence their lives as well. So that was why that reading was such an important part to me, because I when I read the Bible, I look at things like, you know, like even like the weekly gospel, like every single Sunday when I read it, it really influences and it speaks to me on a metaphysical level, you know. So it's very interesting for sure.
Tell me, what made you? Because I guess I was never an atheist myself, but I was never that close with God. I just didn't want to go to hell, so I stuck with Him. So I stuck with God just so I don't go to hell. All right, because I didn't want to go to the place where it's hot. I wanted to go, you know, I wanted to go where the blue skies were. So I guess that stuck with me as a kid. And I had a mum, I've got an Orthodox background, and she went to church every Sunday. But the last 10 years, a lot of things changed. We seem to have go through adversity to shift. But what was it, a person that can announce that he was predominantly or possibly an atheist, how did you shift from atheist to having faith? Because for me, it was pretty simple, because my mum did it and I didn't want to go to hell. And then I understood. So, yeah, what was it, the shift with you?
For sure. Well, you know, it was funny because, you know, I have a few Christian friends and they always try to convert me, which is great of them. But, you know, they're always respectful that I didn't want to. I'm just like, look, I love. It's amazing what you do, but I don't want to be involved.
Turning to faith is like network marketing companies. Like they come to you to want to join MLMs.
For sure. You know, when I was a teenager, you know, one of my friends, you know, my first ever high school friend, he said, "Hey, come with me to, you know, like Crossway Church. You know, there's going to be the speaker there. He talks about God and stuff. Then after that, we have like this massive party thing. I'm like, done. I'll come." Just came for the party aspect, you know. But you know, when this guy came out, I forgot his name. His name was Nick something. This guy has no limbs. He has no arms, no legs, and he's like hobbling on the stage. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, how is this guy like got a smile on his face? Like, he's literally got no limbs. God, like, how does this guy live his life? And he started talking to me about his like, there was hundreds of us there, about his life and, you know, the way that like God influenced his lifestyle and turned his greatest curse of the way he was born into one of his greatest abilities to help inspire people. And, you know, like that sort of actually gave me a bit of an understanding of like, oh, wow, this is what God's about. And then, you know, when it came to prior to the Bible study, you know, Emmy's already a Catholic. Yeah. I decided to be a Catholic as well. And, you know, once we started actually going through the Bible study course each week, I realized like, I actually enjoy coming here. Yeah. I feel welcomed. I feel like I'm a part of the community. But when our priest came in, Father Diston, from St. John's Church, and he came in and we actually asked him questions about, you know, like his faith, and like, you know, we actually were able to raise challenging questions, which was great. And that's what's something that, you know, I always wanted to know. It's like, well, hold on a sec. Like, you know, how do we not have any like primary evidence of Jesus existing or things like that, you know, where a lot of people who don't believe in that would start to raise those questions and you would go in a full detail explaining it. And I loved that. But yeah, and I think it was for me the strength that it gave me when in times of need I felt like I couldn't do anything myself. I started to rely on God and something like a higher power that strengthens me. And so, you know, when I used to see people say, oh, you know, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. Like, just do it. Like, just do it.
I know.
But then I realized, like, when things really do get hard and when you really feel like you can't do something and you're relying on that faith, it pushes you so much harder, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, the biggest factor is that, you know, it allowed me to elevate myself to the person that I've always wanted to become, but that I'm always continuing to strive to be. So that's the biggest reason.
Yeah, it's funny because I know people want to go to a church service to try to understand faith, but I think for me, I actually went to a Bible study first, and that shifted. And I think it's, if you're ever going to want to take on the narrative of what the hell are you guys on about, go to a Bible study and start posing strong questions. Hit them with them. Get in there and ask some tough questions. That's what it's about. Like, and also, a great thing about Bible study is it's a group perspective. Sometimes someone says something, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't see it coming that way. I didn't see that direction. So, and the other thing was, and I'll say it for you, and we'll leave faith alone before they all think me and you are ministers and suddenly we're going for the Vatican. But Pope Jaxon, Pope Guerin, who's got the biggest biceps as a pope. IFBB Pope. Oh my God, what a good ring to it. Hey, maybe you can.
I would change. You know what? I would do a new precedent where every single pope would have to wear a sleeveless top.
Muscle tops. You know what?
Muscles.
You know what? You've actually got one of your disciples with you, Emad. You could both be pros, pope, pose. Add the Pope to it.
That's so good. That's amazing. I'm telling him that when I see it.
You got to add the Pope bit now. Now you two have to add the Pope bit. But you know,
Sure.
I'm going to tell you a funny story quickly, and we'll let Faith go for a little bit. Eh? We'll stop the converted. But we were doing a podcast one day here, and I was talking to, and I think it was Nikki. It was podcast 50. No, not what it was. Anyway, it was a pre-recorded podcast, pre-recorded. So when we launched it 6 weeks later, my phone rang. My phone was ringing, and I could feel it vibrate. It wouldn't stop. And I picked it up, and I go to Nikki, it's John. John's 90 years old from the church, right? So I go, I said, I'll talk to John later. And I said, shout out to you, John. 6 weeks later, he passed away. But on the day of the podcast, it was just weird that the phone rang and it was John, right? Wow. And my podcast went live. And John was a person that once said to me, I said, John, I can't do this. And John said, you can't. And I said, then what do I do? And he goes, you ask him to do it for you. And I went, I can just ask? He goes, I ask every day. So I went, that's cool. Yeah. I said, John, I'll ask him. That's what I said. I said, can I just ask you for help? He goes, I ask him every day. And John was a pastor, so he was a minister too. But it was a sad story, but John was incredible. Oh my God, John was incredible. You know, he was incredible. But it's just funny things we're talking about this. But let's go something to very religious, and that's 3 reasons why your chest is not developing at the gym. All right, mate. Tell us what it is. Come on. Let's see if you remember your 3 reasons. Go. What are the reasons?
Honestly, it's going to be pretty universal. I
think.
Go for it, mate. Obviously, not in particular order. 1 is obviously exercise selection. Yep. 2 is going to be obviously full range of motion.
Yep.
And then from probably the 3rd that I think, I'm not sure if it's on there or not, but in my also opinion as well, it would be ensuring that, our tempo is good. So,
man, you win. You get to go to try to win the car. Yes, lack of range of movement, lack of control, and lack of program. Why those three things, man? Because
Yeah.
maybe that explains my chest. So go ahead.
Well, you know what? Like, coming from a powerlifting background and having incredibly large genetically gifted arms,
Yep.
you know, I was someone who always struggled to build my chest in the gym. And, you know, through years of training, like, yes, it sort of started to develop, but it wasn't at a point where, like, okay, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So I started to sort of dig deeper into my training, the way I'm programming also as well. I started to, you know, pre-record my sets. You know, I was one of those people in the gym with a tripod, but, you know, I was a co-owner of the gym at the time, so it was fine. But essentially, you know, through that, I started to look at, okay, well, I'm doing a flat bench press and I'm trying to do 200 plus kilos every single week. I'm not really able to, you know, get as deep as the stretch compared to something like a dumbbell, let's say. So that was the first reason why I found, okay, well, you know, if we're building muscle tissue in the gym, the stretch reflex is something that a lot of people utilize in powerlifting. So they just dump the weight as fast as possible and drive it up really hard. So when it comes to a hypertrophy aspect, the loaded stretch position is where you're going to grow the most. Like, they've had meta-analyses and studies on these. Like, I do a lot of research in, you know, like that medical sector on, like, you know, studies of like diet, training, electrolyte function, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, once we started we started looking at the studies of like, okay, well, if we're in this position here, this is where it's going to obviously have the largest stimulus compared to at the top in the contracted position and shortened. So, you know, then I realized, okay, well, you know, let's start changing our training. Let's make sure that we have, you know, a 1 second pause in the bottom of the stretch movement. Then secondly, when it came to, you know, our tempo, that was another important factor. So they looked at also studies on, you know, a 1 second, you know, variation of a movement on a eccentric phase, and they looked at like a 2 to 3 second eccentric phase as well. So given that they're both the same load, it's not really going to have much of a massive difference. But what's going to happen is essentially is that when we're focusing on controlling the movement, you're also going to have less activation of the tendons, because the tendons are involved in springy, strong movements. So if you're trying to, for example, be an NFL player, you're trying to sprint as fast as possible, powerful, explosive plyometric movements, that's going to engage a lot more of, you know, the muscle spindles, but also a bit more of your tendons. So when it comes to that slow eccentric phase, it's not much of a difference, but it can add, you know, anywhere from like a 5 to 10% difference usually. And from the byproduct of that as well, it's been shown that essentially when, you know, we're controlling the movement a bit slower, we're also actually going to hit failure a lot faster, because we're essentially fatiguing the muscle a lot faster too. So that's why it's another important factor of slowing it down, because it's not actually in turn creating way more activation on the actual fibers of the muscle themselves, but it's going to enable us to actually go to failure a lot faster and a lot more effectively. Instead of doing 20 reps with 50 kilos with a 1 second negative, we're going to be doing 50 kilos with 10 reps with a 3 to 4 second negative. So if you see what I mean, it's also very time valuable in the gym. Then lastly, when it comes to that overall activation, the programming and our exercise selection. So it's a very important factor looking at, obviously as athletes, we focus on training performance. That's the number one thing we want in the gym. When that increases, we're going to build muscle tissue as well. So a lot of the time when it comes to building tissue, the way we structure up our training is very effective. So back in the day, you know, you probably encountered, hey, let's do a pre-fatiguing system and then we'll get into our compound movement. Such a waste of time. Like, it's honestly just a waste of time, because at the end of the day, mechanical tension, so the amount of load, the overall weight we move, coupled with the control and the amount of intensity working towards failure, as per se, are the most three main important factors. So that's why when it comes to our training, we want to ensure that if we're trying to build our chest, we need a compound movement that's usually going to be a loaded stretch position that puts tension at the bottom. Then we're going to obviously do a movement as well, which will be another pressing like motion that's going to put tension at the shortened end of the range. So instead of doing a dumbbell, let's say dumbbell incline, we're going to do that for the stretch. We want to now do a machine-based press, which can focus on shortening the tension at the top. So let's say like a incline machine. Then let's also say, okay, well, both of those compounds are now done effectively. We also want to make sure that we can create another great stretch movement in the pec. So usually a lot of the times I like programming dips. Dips are a great, amazing, effective factor to build more muscle tissue in your pecs. So something like that or a decline press variation are great as well. then usually something like where it's going to have horizontal flexion like this. So therefore we're coming out and also in, so usually adduction. So let's say a fly variation with a cable or even like a pec deck. So things like this are very important because when it comes to the way that we're actually structuring our training is going to be a very, very large depiction of how much tissue will build long term. Yeah.
It's funny, while you were saying all that, it's like I went back to Mitsos Gym, right? Is in Marrickville. That's the inner west, close to the city. And it like a Doherty's gym, okay? It's like a Doherty's gym, right? And and it's funny, the range of movement, the lengthening of the movement was so paramount. We didn't know anything else. Like we knew nothing.
Yeah.
And when you talk about cable pec deck, we used to do flies, dumbbell flies.
Yeah.
And you were more of a hero if you stretched far with big weights and you did the form right than going light. Like everything was, that's why I said it was so painful. It wasn't, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, many did, like in a sense, the pros, the bodybuilders, the guys that were competing, but we were just watching them and we just looked at their range of movements. We looked, like I said, we just kept looking at the big guys doing and we just imitated them. So it was about massive stretches and, complete, range of movement. Range of movement was so big. It was incredible. And that was what was scary because we do squats and we didn't know squats without spot. You had to be, and you also had a rule at the gym. Everyone asked each other for spotting. There was no one that didn't ask you for a spot, and you were never afraid to ask anyone for a spot. No one said no. And and the reason I think our gym sessions were 3 hours or 2 hours was the spot element, is that we spent time helping people. There was so much of that going on. So I don't know, it was just like that. It was just everyone was spotting. Everyone wanted to do a PB. It was just a PB driven environment.
Yeah. And I think it's important though, because I think the one largest difference of, when you were training, like back then in that era compared to now is that now people are afraid to push themselves. They think that we have to always be optimal. And, we have to train like this, we have to train like that. But at the end of the day, if you're training hard and training pretty much to failure, it's great. I think, a lot of people, major the minders of you don't have to train failure all the time. And well, you don't, but if you can, and it actually creates larger progress and you can recover from that, why not?
Exactly.
And I think that's why, a lot of people really actually dig on science-based lifting, because, a lot of people that preach that are usually natural athletes, and, you see a lot of people receive criticism for it, but I think they're actually science-based lifting, of course, works. It's been optimized, but in order for that to actually create fruition in results, you need to train hard. Yeah. And, I'm a pretty science-based lifter now compared to what I was doing 5, 6, 7 years ago, where I just get under a barbell squat. I just load 6, 7 plates and just squat it. I just be the heavier the weight, the better it is. And it definitely did have a great factor in the way I am as an athlete today. But I think it's more about also the long game too. You were saying, 100%. It's if you want to do this long, it's a very important thing. It's instead of a barbell squat, I can now do a machine where I can technically do the same weight, but I can get more reps because I'm not being fatigued on trying to balance the load, for example. So everything has, yes, its application, but looking at it from the lens of not just an athlete, but from a science standpoint is helpful, because a lot of people really do lack the ability to have, again, the practical knowledge of what works and what doesn't, and that application is, as I said, prior. So, yeah.
I think, I don't want people to misinterpret that that's what it was for 12 months of the year. It wasn't. It's like Bathurst. The guy that wins the race is the one that preserves the tyres and preserves the motor, right? The one that wins Bathurst, right? So I would, if I was going to go into a push stage, I knew it went for 12 weeks. It didn't go for 16. It didn't go. It was set for this amount of time. And then when it was done, sometimes I trained for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and it was just touching the weights. I just went in just to touch them, like just move. I don't think anyone understands that. It's not just always progressive overload. You're gonna break.
For sure.
You're not going to be able to walk. You're not I think the longevity I had with the gym was that I didn't progressively overload 12 months of the year. I think there was a 12 weeks of progressive overload. There was a 12 weeks of shedding. There was even a 12 weeks of bulking. Like, you think that's only that's actually 9 months. And then there was 3 months of relaxing.
Yeah, so it's not that much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that's 12 months of training. So you just got to lock in some, I think no one does start and finish dates. You got to lock in, you know what someone said to me? They say when you've got a comp, you've got a date. So you're planning a date. I think people don't put dates in their normal life. And I'll tell you which date's always been paramount for me, which I've missed a few times, many times I've missed it. And I think I might miss it this year. I don't know. I've got another 5 weeks to go. The 1st of December. It's summer. That's my comp. The 1st of December is comp day, not the 5th, not the 2nd week of December, not even, but New Year's Day can be your day, or Christmas can be your day. But for me, the 1st of December says I've prepped. That means I've dieted. I've turned up with the body. That means for the next 12 weeks, I maintain that body for summer. There's no more work. The work's done. Now it's maintenance. So sure. Everyone kind of wants to get this amazing body 2 weeks out of summer. You've missed summer, buddy. You've missed summer.
Yeah. And I think that's the important factor is like, when I take on, I'm a full-time coach now. Yeah. And, when I get a lot of people get on board, generally they're mostly Gen Pop, which is great. And, a lot of them say, I want to be shaped for summer, this and that, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you got to start dieting today. They're like, what do you mean? Can we start dieting in like December? And I'm like, don't you want to eat on Christmas and New Year?
Yeah, that's what you want to do. That's right.
And that's what I tell them. I'm like, the whole point is, throughout the spring and end of winter, that's when you diet. Because by the time summer rolls around, you look great. You're in a maintenance. You can eat what you want primarily and relax. That's the whole point. The goal of getting in shape for summer is about getting in shape before December starts.
Yes, that's right.
So then once people do that, they're like, oh, now I know what you mean. This is amazing. Now I can actually enjoy my life when I get in shape. And it's like people getting in shape for Europe. That a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to diet so damn hard. But then they leave for Europe and then they just come back and they've actually gained more weight than what they lost. And so, it makes my brain get scrambled sometimes. So that's why I think, it's very important about the whole emphasis of timing and not always, pushing yourself to the absolute maximum all the time, because it actually does create a lot of psychological fatigue, and that can lead to what burnout usually is, because you haven't recovered. Simple.
100%. It's like I said, I look at you guys competing and it reminds me, like, you guys, sometimes you're ready 3 weeks out of a comp, but you want to be ready so in case your coach wants to fuel you a bit differently or wants to play around with some food and just wants to see what it's like. But that's kind of like going into summer. You want to be about 3 weeks out and you say, oh shit, I'm too soft, or I've over dieted. All right, I've got to eat a bit more carbs so I can fill up a little bit. I don't need to be so withdrawn. So this is what I'm saying is actually life is a comp. And that's what's so good about it. So I guess, so I hope people are listening to this. I think it's very important. Talking about competing, let's go with some of your comps now. And so there you are in April, Melbourne show, Classic Physique State Champion. So tell me, how did you, since everything I've heard right now, I want to know how you were on the day. I want to know, no one's told me this. I want to know, you woke up, what's the first thing? I want you to tell me from the moment you got in the car, you drove, and you laid down on that floor with your legs up. Tell us about that.
Oh, great question. No one has ever asked me that. And You know, it's funny because
Thank
the
you.
day I woke up, you know, it was a Saturday. Yeah, it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I remember I woke up Saturday morning, got up, checked my weight. I was actually still under the weight cap, but I'm like, shit, I need to eat more food. So that was my first reaction. But then after I got back, I talked to Emmy and I'm like, whatever happens today isn't a byproduct, it shouldn't define the way I feel.
Yeah.
Whether I win or lose doesn't matter. And that's one thing that I reminded myself so much was like, I just made it. I made it to the stage. I've done what I love, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
Enjoy the fucking day.
Yep.
And so after that, you know, I had my little black coffee. That was probably like that, and a little bit of water was pretty much all the fluids I had up until the show. And so it was great. It was unbelievable.
Sounds like my mornings.
I took some checking pictures that morning. I was a bit flattered the night before, but I was really happy. And I was just like, all these months of work have technically come down to this day, but it's not about that. I'm just glad to be here, and I'm excited to be an athlete. That's it. Like, I did all the work. It's just kind of have fun. And so, you know, in the car on the way there, you know, my dad and my mum, they're amazing people. I get a bit emotional about it sometimes. You know, they've always supported me, and
good.
You know, my dad had a big suitcase with all my stuff there. He was really smart though. He's like, hey, get a little mattress, get like, you know, some blankets and shit. It's super cold. It's like 6 a.m. We're rocking up to the tan, and you know, it's super freezing. I've got my jacket on, my pants. And I'm just like, I'm not stressed. I'm just not stressed. And I was just really happy to be there. And so we're on the way driving, just in the back while my dad was driving with the missus, and we're just playing some music, just chilling out. And yeah, rocking up there was great. That show, I made some friends that I've actually invited to my wedding. So that's very funny.
Wow.
So, you know, we're rocking up to the tan, and, you know, a guy in front of me, it's like, oh yeah, you're Jaxon. Yeah, you're competing today. I'm like, oh yeah, nice to meet you. What's his name? He's like, oh, my name's Jude. He's like he's such a good mate of mine from Doherty's. And we just started talking, and, you know, I just, you know, saw a lot of athletes I knew backstage, and I was just talking to friends, just relaxing. And, you know, it actually got to a point where I was so cold, I actually had to had 3 dooners over me.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there like freezing, and I'm like, fuck, I just can't wait to get on stage so I'm not cold anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were just watching scary stories and listening to like Shrek music. That's the one thing, I listen to Shrek music to make sure I don't get stressed.
Yeah.
So I listened to that. That was great. And
Shrek music. What's Shrek music? Are you talking about the movie?
Yeah, the movie, like some of the songs in there, like, you know, Smash Mouth,
Smash Mouth. Yes. I do know the music.
Yeah. So, you know, and it was great having Emmy there by my side, because, you know, without her, I would have not competed. I wouldn't have made it to the stage. And so, you know, we're relaxing, and it was just amazing to be there with her and just enjoy it. And she was also reminding me, like, just enjoy it. Just, even if you fucking lose, like, it doesn't matter. Like, and I generally thought that. And I'm like, this is just really fun. I'm glad to be here. So, yeah, then by the time, you know, I was getting ready, and hey, classic physique, true novice, first timers, start pumping up. I was like, this is great. We're here. Like, it's already happening. And yeah, then the rest of that was history, you know. I don't really remember much of what competed on stage, but like, I did ballet for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So being in front of a lot of people posing isn't a problem for me, because I actually had to remember like scripts. I used to be a child actor as well. I used to do stage production. So I had to remember pages and pages of script, dance while like singing stuff. And that was way harder in my opinion than just getting on stage and hitting a front relax. Like, so for me, it wasn't that hard. I just walked out. I wasn't hyperventilating. I was just happy to be there. And just everyone was so welcoming, and I just had such a great time competing, and no one was bickering. And, you know, there was even one guy, when I was doing the bodybuilding true novice, he was like hyperventilating. I'm like, bro, it's all right. My first time as well. Just breathe, relax. And he settled down a bit as well. But that was one of the best days, because I was able to share that with great people. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand of, you know, winning's great, but sharing those awesome moments with great people is what made me love that day so much. Yeah, it was great. I had no stress. I was so relaxed.
I've got to think about that, because I actually was telling Chris, if I think I competed, I wouldn't go with anyone. I'd just go myself, maybe with Chris. And I think that's a dishonor to me and the people around me. So I think, thank you for sharing that. I think if anyone's listening, I think that's really important to have your loved ones there and have a good support crew. You know what? It's funny. My daughter's a triple threat. So she's a singer, dancer, and actress, right?
She does it all.
Yeah, she does it all. She's triple threat. She graduated from the Performing Arts School here in Sydney, and the funniest thing is when she was little, in her teens, and she was suffering even strong anxiety, my poor little baby. But she played Princess Fiona in Shrek, so she was Princess Fiona. It was really good.
That's amazing.
And when I look at the script she got, I'm thinking, how the fuck did she remember everything about Princess Fiona and being on stage and dancing and carrying on? But you know what's funny?
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Jaxon? When my daughter goes on stage, I don't recognize her, and she is her. Like, who is this person? Like the voice that comes out of her, the actress, the person. I just go, and as soon as the first little ounce of movement or the bit of a sound or a dance, I can see the moment she breaks the wall down, and then she's gone. That's it. There's Ruby. Like, hello, Ruby. It's not even the kid that's at my home. It's like, who is this girl? You know, it's just amazing. It's quite a talent to have that, you guys doing that. Let's talk about ballet before we go in. Oh, there's a bit of noise. Talk about ballet, right? All right, because I'm going to talk about the Grand Prix, but since we brought up ballet and everyone's going, what the fuck, ballet? So
I know
you did, but the thing is, ballet was a challenging time, but it was something quite special to you. But can you tell us, you took it up, but pressure and peer group, from what I read, seemed to have stopped you doing a few things other than closely bashing someone's jaw when they... So, and the reason I believe, and you know what, I'm just going to say this. My daughter hated bullies, meaning not only if they bullied her, my daughter hated anyone that got bullied. And my daughter had to leave school because of that. She had to leave school at year 9 because she couldn't handle it. She just couldn't handle fuckwits. Poor thing. It wasn't how I read what I'm saying right now, but my daughter couldn't handle it. It hurt her. It broke her heart too much. And I feel it's something with you, because you mentioned it got to you so much that you had to you felt like you wanted to fight because of the rage of what you saw. You couldn't control yourself. Is it something similar?
Yeah, well, I actually moved schools as well. Yeah, in year 7, I lasted at my old higght school for less than 8 months.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And it got so bad to the point. Yeah,
my daughter moved. My daughter moved fucking nearly 3 or 4 schools, man. Like you don't know what we went through. Yeah. But what a champion she is today, 21-year-old. Fuck, you wouldn't think performing arts, getting on stage. You wouldn't think it, man.
And that's the thing, you know, it requires a lot of strength to continue to pursue what you love, regardless of the criticism that you receive.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, you know, when people found out I did ballet and, you know, I did dancing and live stage productions, the amount of shit I received from people was a lot. You know, I got told by people that I was gay, I was a fag, I was a loser, you know, I should go kill myself. You know, I was told a lot of things, and, you know, and that unfortunately made me a very violent person. And this is what I explained, like, prior to some people, where, you know, I become very defensive. You know, the only way that I could, like, felt like I could survive was, like, to defend myself. And, you know, it just got to a point where, you know, the reason I moved schools because, you know, this kid started to pick on me for the shoes I was wearing, the fucking shoes I was wearing. Like, I know.
Oh, don't worry, I know. Yeah.
You know, I just cracked, and I said, nah, I've taken enough of this. Just went up to the kid, started smashing his face. Like,
I love it. Sorry, but
you know, and I'm not a violent person.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but honestly, like, at the time, I was like, you know what, that kid fucking deserved it. And it was funny because, you know, I don't condone violence.
No,
we
don't.
You know, I had nobody, and it was really hard for me to connect to people. And I just wasn't a very social person. Like, I wasn't good at being social naturally. I wasn't good at sport. I wasn't a good-looking guy. I wasn't smart. I was, you know, I was pretty much a loser from what most people would think. So, you know, and it got to a point where I said, I can't do this anymore. I just received so much criticism for ballet, and Like, I love my older brother, but even when I made little films, him and his mates back in the day would pick on me so much. And like,
all right,
I don't want to.
Shall we bash your brother now? Where's your brother? Should I come down to Melbourne? We bash him together. We'll jump in with balaclavas on. We'll put some balaclavas on. I'll get Chris to have the camera ready, and we'll just put it on social media, see how it tracks.
I know. And so, you know what? I remember like no one. And my parents were so supportive of it at the time, but I was like, I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm just gonna do sport. Like, I'm just gonna do what my older brother does. Gets all the girls. He's the athlete. He's the footballer.
Bastard.
Playing VFL.
Don't tell me he's also good looking.
Like,
don't say he's good looking too.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell, mate. Let's go get him.
It was. I know, and I was just like, fuck. Like, why did I felt like I got the bad genetics. Like, I also used to have really crooked teeth when I was younger. I was like a short, fat kid. I was just like, fuck, like, I've just got the short end of the stick,
well,
and that basically made my transition from putting ballet behind me was long-term one of the hardest things I ever did. And, I do, honestly, I won't lie, I do regret turning my back on ballet, but, I'm actually excited to go back to there and, start doing some lessons again, even leading up to when I compete for a pro show.
Good.
And just
film it.
Going back to
Can
my
you film
roots
it? Can you please film it?
For sure.
Because it'll be. Look, I'll just say something to you. That no one since Arnold Schwarzenegger has achieved what C-Bum's achieved now. So it's Arnold and C-Bum. But no one has done ballet like Arnold and Franco Columbu. You can be that. So we need to see it back because those two did ballet classes. So
yeah, for sure, and it's great. Like, it's pretty much identical to what it is, But what they were doing is more of what the female classical ballet.
Of course.
So men's classical ballet is a little bit different. But yeah, and also from learning that, I just love being able to express myself. So yeah, then after that, I pulled it. I said, nah, moving schools and. Stop ballet, and then I said, "Stuff it, let's do some sport." And I got into basketball, and then that got into football, and then bodybuilding now. So, yeah,
I always like to share funny stories, and because you bring up me, I was kind of bullied. I was a fat kid, bullied in primary, and eventually the bullies left. And I remember being in year 6, and I had a reprieve. Like, I thought, oh right, at last I'm in year 6. No one's chasing me. I haven't got these 2 fucking lebs chasing me. Sorry, Lebanese people, I love you. But, and then I haven't got this redneck fucking Aussie picking on me either. It just seemed like a fucking yin and yang. Anyway, and then I went to high school, and there was one of the bullies. But they were a year above me. And as soon as he saw me, he came straight up. And I remember one day going... Like, it was just relentless for the first 6 months. And I turned to my mate and I said, his name was Nick. I said, Nick, I'm going to have to bash this guy. And so one day we had a ritual, me and Nick. We'd always finish school and go to the fish and chip shop across the road and get scallops and chips. And I remember we got our scallops and chips, and there was Henry. And I said to Nick, take my scallops, take my chips. I'm going to go bash this guy.
So go up to him,
So I bashed the fuck out of this guy. And then I said, don't come near me again. No joke. He never did. And then I went back to my scallops and chips, and we ate them on the way home, like just 2 wog boys. Just 2 wog boys.
Sigma.
And you know what's funny?
Gangster.
Yeah, and then I had another guy who started picking on me, but this time I knew this isn't going away, so I just gave him a week's notice and I bashed the fuck out of him. I just said, this ain't going to go on anymore. And I'm going to say one more thing, which is not a good fathering tool. All right? I'm going to tell you one other thing. My son, when he used to go to school every year, I used to take him at the beginning of the school, and I said, I've got some rules, Yanni. His name is Yanni. He knew what the rules were, but he'd listened, thankfully. I said, right, 1, you're going to sit at the front of the class. Have you got it? At the front of the class. That's where you get the answers, and that's where you get the free marks. He goes, got it. And 2, always remember your longest reach. Because he did Muay Thai. I said, if it's front kick, hit him in the head straight away. Don't let him come to you. So imagine me telling my son, know your longest reach. So in other words, they come at you, just hit them.
Thanks.
But thankfully, My son never did that at school. There's been a moment or two where we don't suffer fools and we don't do bullies. But like I said to you, it's a funny story that you told me what you told me. So that meant, firstly, I thank you for sharing that story. And, I feel for you. I feel sad because I fucking can't stand it. And I'm such an underdog type person and team player. And even with my kids, I just can't stand them. I can't stand it at all. And my daughter went through a lot, but she's tough. When I say she's tougher than all of us, she's actually doing, she's a performing arts girl. It's 97% unemployment rate, but who's counting? But that in itself, to believe in yourself that you can do it, I praise her for it, But
yeah, for sure.
Thankfully, she's got a brother and a dad that will assassinate people for her if they come near her. So
100%. That's if I had a daughter for sure. I'd start buying up guns. I'd be like, I don't care.
So tell me, so that's when you took up also all right. So you did professional football. I'll say a few things. We'll speed a few things up for you. And obviously you did basketball, but at 16 is when you touched weights. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true. I decided to touch weights properly on a bodybuilding spectrum because, I was actually going to bring that exact muscular development magazine that I first saw, and I was like, I want to be like that. It was a picture of Arnold.
Where is it? Have you got it there? Have you got it there? Have you got it there?
No, it's back at home.
Oh, okay.
I'm at my missus right now.
That's right.
in the office, but essentially, that picture was. You know what? When I get home after today, I'll send you a picture of when I find
Please
it,
do.
and I'll show you what one it was. And I remember my dad, had an amazing home gym, dumbbells up to 50 kilos, weights up to 400 kilos,
Wow.
hack squat, leg press. It was a full gym. You could make this a little mini studio. It was in a massive garage in my parents' house. And I said, you know what? I've been training a lot for football, and I decided to move away from that and realized that it wasn't for me, and I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I said, I always wanted to play NFL. I always wanted to go to America, play varsity football, and one day play college. That'd be amazing. So I was a big Patriots fan. I used to love Rob Gronkowski, tight end, big boy. He was strong as. Even JJ Watt were these guys were just big, really strong guys who lift in the gym. They're super strong, super athletic. That was sort of what I wanted to be. And I realized I'm a skinny 73 kilo guy. I need to lift some weights. I need to hit the gym.
Yeah.
My dad was like, time to hit the gym. And so, I said, hey, can I get a gym membership? Can I get a gym membership as well? He's like, you know what? He said, Jaxon, once you can lift everything in the gym,
100%.
in the home gym, I'll get you one. I'm like, done. And I was fixated, man. This is end of year 10 now, start of year 11, throughout the school holidays. And no one saw me. I just started eating everything in sight, and I started training. And once I started, training really, really hard, I went from a 60 kilo to a 200 kilo deadlift in 3 months. I went from a 100 kilo squat to a 220 kilo squat in 4 months. I went from a 20 kilo bench press of the bar to my first 100 in 4.5 months. So I got very strong very quickly, and I just loved training. And then all of a sudden, my mum got me this muscular development magazine. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? He's like, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, what, the Terminator? He's like, how do you think he got famous? I'm like, was he a fucking bodybuilder? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, you're kidding. And all of a sudden, I go on YouTube. I start watching, was it Muscular Development? No. It was bodybuilding.com, I think. And it was just all the history of the Olympia. And I had a massive TV. I had a 60-inch TV in my room. I'm very grateful. And, I was just watching it on a Friday night. I was 15, 16. I'm like, I felt like
he's meant to do this, Chris.
Reborn.
Yeah, keep going.
I instantly just checked, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to do that. And instantly I just got up the next day. I'm like, all right, what do I have to do? So I literally just watched the Bodybuilding Blueprint to Mass by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I just followed that exact diet Then on top of that, I had mass gainers, and I didn't track calories. I didn't track shit. I did his exact training plan for 4.5 months.
Oh,
and I
this
put
is
on
gold.
31 kilos. I put on 31 kilos.
This is gold.
I went from 70 to 72 kilos to 101.
Oh.
And by the time school started in year 11, I was the biggest guy in school. And everyone was just like, what the fuck did you just do, Jaxon? And I'm like, I want to be a bodybuilder. And they're like, but you'll never be a bodybuilder. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you haven't competed. And I'm like, I'll show you in 6 months. So without telling anyone, I got a coach. I did my first natural bodybuilding show and I won.
Wow.
I also came 5th in the overall against men who've been training for 10 years. This is INBA, by the way. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I remember I didn't tell a soul I was competing. And all of a sudden, my fiance, she had a crush on me. I had a crush on her. She saw my post of when I won and I competed. I ended up competing at 84 kilos. So I put on 10 to 14 kilos within 9 months of training. But I just absolutely sent it. I was an animal when I trained. I would literally train until I couldn't. That was how full on it was. It was just what's the old school mindset? How do they train? How do they progress? And that was it. I just started watching all these bodybuilding videos and I'm just I saw all the posing routines like Lee Labrada, Samir Bannout, Tom Platz, and I just said, I want to do this. And that was pretty much history from there.
Wow. Well, firstly, Chris, book me in for a comp. I need a girlfriend. All right. Book me in. All right. I need a girlfriend. All right. I need a girlfriend, Chris. Obviously, I'm divorced, so I'm not cheating on anybody, but I'm just letting you know. But you know what? Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how fucking deserving you are to get a pro card? It has to go to the right person. It seems to work its way through to some of the people that win their pro cards. There's a reason why you've got a pro card over me. I'm just saying, or why you compete over me or over many of us. You deserve what you've done, it's just, you have to go really far back to understand where foundations were built and how you built on foundation, on top of foundation, and why you are there and why we should congratulate you for being there. And you're the right person. So let me say that to you. Congratulations. You are the right person.
Thank you very much.
It's really cool, man.
Thank you.
But you actually stepped away for a moment and then you took up deadlifting. What happened there?
Oh, I love powerlifting.
You got the girlfriend, didn't you? You got the girlfriend and you said, oh, we're not doing anything now.
I was after high school, I'm I need a job.
Yeah.
I became a personal trainer. And so I started training clients and that was working out really well for me. And, I got to a point where it was 2019 and I remember going to a powerlifting gym in Melbourne called Pro Raw Gym. And I loved it. I just saw people lifting heavy shit. And I'm like, I love this. This is awesome. Then all of a sudden, this powerlifting guy, he's a big guy. I ended up being my powerlifting coach. Yeah. And he was like, hey, you want to try some knee wraps and squats and heavy shit? I'm like, done. Let's do it.
Yeah.
First session, I squatted 270 kilos and I was 19.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I squatted 290. Easy. Wow. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. So, and from that, I just loved that adrenaline of lifting really heavy. And it was something that I always loved with training where you push yourself really hard. And so that was something that I found was really exciting. You're getting under a big squat and it requires everything of you to do it. And I love being an athlete and the whole emphasis of training performance. So for me, I loved just working really hard, lifting heavy stuff and just pushing myself to limits that I thought I could never find. And that's what really it really aided my ability to push harder with training, especially in bodybuilding, because powerlifting really set me a great foundation, especially for, I have very big legs. I have, very, very strong lower back. I have big arms. So a lot of that I really do attest to, to my prior training with powerlifting. So for sure, it was great.
And then tell me, what was this? You decided to do a beltless 300 kilo deadlift recently. I tell you what, mate, once you put it down and you clapping and your happiness was enough to scare everyone in the gym.
That was great. So I was actually at an athlete meetup for Optimum Nutrition and they're my sponsors and they're amazing. And they've always looked after me, which is great. And pretty much they had said, hey, like we have an athlete meet up in South Melbourne. And I was like, done, let's do it. And, we had a full itinerary set up, and, I actually ran a Spartan the day after that deadlift as well. Okay. So I actually ran.
Oh, you did a Spartan as
5Ks.
Okay.
And I did a Spartan 5K run with 20 obstacles, and I did them all. And basically, when we got there the Friday, I was like, well, we're all going to Eugene Teo's gym. He's an amazing guy. He's got a gym in Melbourne, and we're going to film some content. And I'm like, done, let's do it. Then all of a sudden we got there. He's like, all right, guys, we're going to do a fitness test. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to come last. And pretty much from that, he said, okay, we're going to do like a strength test, which is going to be like a max deadlift. But obviously, as Jaxon will probably lift the most, we'll do power to body weight ratio. And I'm like, all right, that's more fair. There was a girl there, Dana, and she was like a powerlifter, and she was super fucking strong. And I was like, all right, it's actually going to be like pretty close. So we had that. We also had to do like a assault bike cardio test, and like a vertical jump, a dead hang, and then there was also a leg press, double body weight for reps. So when we did the deadlift, I haven't deadlifted in a long time. I just RDL. So RDL, it's a little bit sort of similar, but just less legs involved. And so I was like, you know what, let's try it. So I loaded up some weight, and I realized that I forgot my belt. I'm like, I didn't even know I was deadlifting today. So I just decided to say, okay, let's go 220. That was easy. I'm like, all right, we'll go 260. That moved. And I'm like, all right, so how much would I need to lift in order to beat Dana on power to body weight? And pretty much from that, I was like, all right, I need to hit 300. And I'm like, shit, I got to do this beltless. So I'm just like, whatever. I've done it before. I've done it for reps. And so I just grabbed the thing and I just pull it. I think, again, that my prior experience to powerlifting has taught me how to deadlift for the rest of my life. And so that was really fun. But guess what the funny thing was is, so, we did like a tier point system. So with all those 5 fitness tests, guess who won out of everyone?
I'm assuming the girl did.
Surprisingly, I beat everyone.
Wow.
I know. I was shocked myself. But I remember, I had the highest vertical. I had the most reps for leg press. I also produced the most amount of watts, and I had the best heart rate variability. Have you heard of HRV before?
Yeah. But how do you?
So like how
do you? Sorry to interrupt. I'm just because you did the Spartan. Sometimes big boys aren't flexible, can't move, can't do jack shit. How come? Have you tried your best to make sure you're functional? Is that also?
For sure. I think like also too, the best athletes, in my opinion, can adapt to any situation they're given. So my sports psychologist told me that, the best athletes, because he also works with people from Olympics, Australian Open, AFL, Anthony Clarico, he's amazing. And he was telling me a few years ago that, the best athletes can bend the rules, they don't break. And so that's the one thing I found is that, if someone said, hey, Jaxon, we got a basketball game tomorrow, it's really important, do you want to play? I'll be like, yeah, for sure. I just have to make sure to warm up effectively so I don't freaking rip an ACL or tear off my ankle, But I think being an athlete is not about just being good at what you do. It's about being, learning to adapt to multiple situations. So that's why for me, going over, and I think that's why, like, for me, if someone ever said, hey, you got to run 5Ks or like, you're going to die or something, like I would be able to do it. Most people wouldn't be able to because, they think they're so one-dimensional. And so that's why over this past year of, being a pro, it's like, I don't want to just be an IFBB pro. I want to present myself like a pro athlete. I want to act like a pro athlete. I want to perform like a pro athlete, whether that's training and bodybuilding or going for a bike ride for 30K with my dad on a Saturday or some shit, So, so that was for me the biggest thing about being an athlete and staying in shape. I do have a lot of tissue work I get done. I've got sponsors for that. But also too, my rest and recovery is very important. Like my downtime is very important for me because, some people who don't train at a high level, it's normal that you don't need to recover as much. It's fine. You can go out on the weekend and relax and do what you want, go clubbing or whatever. I can't really do that. I really actually have to set in advance for days like that where I can go and have some fun, So, and I think that's why for me, being an athlete it's a privilege, but also too, when you perform at a high level, you also have to recover at a higher level. You can't just be like, I'm just going to go and go for a swim or whatever. Sorry about my dog.
That's all right.
His little French, I'll bring him in later. But,
yeah.
when it he's beautiful. And so I think for me, it was about making sure that, I wasn't also doing anything stupid. Like I wouldn't go and jump off a 5-meter freaking building to just land it or something, So I'm also a lot smarter with what I do now. But, if push comes to shove and I had to do something where it was out of my comfort zone, I'm more than happy to do it. Yeah.
Well, then I want to know 2 things. So from April to May, going to the IFBB Grand Prix and between shows, I want to know 2 things. 1, what did you need to do to compose yourself between 2 shows? I'm sure people would want to know that, like going from winning a state show and then trying to be at your optimum for the complete national show. But there was a comment by Matt Jensen that said, congratulations, he said, but Jaxon and I started working together May of 2023. Full transparency, I honestly thought he has already a pro when he started. He thought you were a pro when you guys started. But I know he wasn't ready for a pro show, so that is how I pushed him over the past year. When he asked me about competing at this show, which is the pro show, you said to him, I think there's a misunderstanding here that I actually still need to earn my pro status. So, Chris, he was going in saying, oh, I can't be a pro. I've got to earn this. And then he gets the pro card. So go on. So I want to know the week going into it, and why did you still think you needed to earn your status?
I think a lot of people, one thing that I agree with on competing, I think that both of us could agree, is when you win a pro card, I think it's important to have a pro level physique, because that's the whole point of becoming a pro.
Yeah.
And so with Jansen, before he realized I was a pro, he always was, and I think within this industry now, it's very unfair the way people have treated him. If people have seen on social media, he was such a great coach to me, and the way he pushed me as an athlete was able to make myself become a better person. He's a family man as well. And that enabled me also to focus on, greater values aside from bodybuilding. So just to get that out of the way. Yeah. So when we were, working together, he always told me to never expect an outcome, but always to, be process driven and do the hard stuff. So with Matt, he's very big on doing hard things, not just because they're hard, but the discipline and the character that it instills in you as a person is the most important thing. And I could completely agree with him on that. So, throughout this process, it was more about, hey, this is a journey that we're going on, that we're sharing, and this is something that, we want to work together on. So, my time with Matt was incredible. I learned so much from him. And, I think, throughout that process of, when I told him, I'm not a pro yet, he was like, oh, my bad. Like, I thought you were. And I said, look, thank you, that you thought I was. But I said to him, throughout this prep, don't change that, that view of me being an amateur, because I love what I do. And that was the biggest thing, is that, he treated me like a pro athlete before I became one. And I think that's such an important thing, is to learn, is that, aside from a title or a pro card or a qualification or winning a pro show or earning status, within an industry, the way you act leading up to that is so much more important. And going back to that whole emphasis of, the character and the person you become throughout the process is more important than the outcome. And so that's why, for me, I think that was a very important factor that he instilled in me. But it was funny because over there it's NPC in America. So, and here we're called IFV. So that may have been why, but, I was telling him, how come I'm not ready? How come I'm not ready? He's like, you need to work on this, this, and this, and this. I was like, fair enough. And he's like, okay, so we'll do this pro show after your wedding because it takes a lot of work. And I'm like, oh shit, he thinks I'm a pro. So, and he was like, tell him, voice memo him. And I voice memoed him, and yeah, he's like, oh shit, okay, well, we have to get your pro card, man, because like you have no more weight to fill out. You might be an open bodybuilder. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be an open guy. So yeah, and then, you know, going in between those shows, I hadn't told anyone this again, you know, and I actually, the day after Dix, I was actually about to pull out. I was about to say, I'm done. I'm done with bodybuilding. I'm very happy with what I achieved. You know, I did something that I was incredibly difficult, but I did it. And I was happy with what I got with what I had received and what I got. So I actually had a phone call with Emmy the night after the first show, so the Sunday night, and I was just very overwhelmed by a lot of what happened. And that's why, you know, the state show for me, it impacted me a lot more than the outcome of the nationals, because, you know, all this stuff just happened out of nowhere, and everyone was like, who is this guy? And so I said to Emmy, I said, you know, I'm thinking about pulling out. She's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, why? She's like, because you're not. Like, you've come all this way, do it. And I'm like, I agree, but I don't want to just focus on the outcome. I don't want to focus on being a pro. I don't care. Like, I just want to enjoy and do what I love. And she's like, look, you know, you have a decision to make. She said, just keep following the plan. And if you get up for the next 3 days in a row from Monday to Wednesday, and you love doing the cardio, you love doing the training, you love the process of it, do the pro show. No, sorry, do the pro qualifier. And I was like, I agree. So, and that's what made me enjoy it so much more, is because, you know, when you're a front runner to win something, there is a lot of pressure. But I welcomed that pressure, and I realized, like, that is a part of the process. It's a part of life. It's a part of the game that we're in. And so leading up to that, over that Monday to Wednesday, I got up every day acting like there wasn't a show, but I was just so happy to do what I loved. And I realized, okay, I think I can do this. I think I'm now in a state where I can compete, because I'm not looking at an outcome again, because it can be so easy to be fed this lie, or this, you know, expectation, I like to call it, these toxic expectations of what you're going to do. And I think that should never, ever, you know, inflate your brain and inflate your ego, because it will only lead to disappointment, like I've said before. So that for me was the biggest reason why I wanted to do the nationals, because I just love competing and I love doing this stuff. So yeah.
Do you think, I do believe everything, all the ducks aligned, planets aligned, stars aligned, that faith lined you up to do this, because you keep speaking about the outcome, or, you know, you keep mentioning this, which is kind of, to me, quite a faith-driven gratefulness and who you become in it. And I feel like when you won the next day, it was close to faith making you stop. But faith told you, why wouldn't you fight for faith and continue to fight for faith? And I think that's why you went back. Yeah, because sometimes we can become quite wimpy with faith, but faith is a fight. So I feel like you felt, well, God, you gave me everything that I wanted. Am I acting greedy now? Am I greedy? I want more. Am I indulging now? And that was a fight you needed to have with your spirit, which you did. And that's why your fiance was very smart, and why she seasoned accordingly. Because if you didn't have her, you wouldn't have done it.
No way. I would have either tried and done it for the wrong reasons and failed, or I would have just not even competed. Thanks to her, I was able to really take a step back and say, what do I really want? And this is why after the when I won my pro card as well, I had a bit of imposter syndrome. I think every athlete has it, because you become pro now and, you know, you're in the pro ranks. But, you know, for me, I never ever wanted success to all happen to me at once, because I honestly feel like I would never be able to handle it. And so that's why for me, I love taking my time with things and knowing that, you know, like, if there is an opportunity to take it, but, you know, understanding that, you know, the faster you blow up as an individual, I believe that the faster you'll crash and burn. So, and that's why, you know, doing these things for the right reasons was such an important factor in my life because, you know, leading up to those moments where, you know, people are telling you, like, you got a pro card, you're going to get the pro card. I was training at a gym where everyone came up to me saying, oh, you're going to win your pro card. I stopped training. I stopped training till after the show. Like, I couldn't be around that because I wanted people to just be like, hey, Jaxon, how you going? I didn't get that. So, you know, it's very easy to look at people face value and, you know, ask them about, you know, what they're doing or what they're good at. But for me, I didn't care about that. I just want to hang around friends and family that just knew me for me, not what I've achieved and what I've done. So that's why, you know, having those times where you do question, like, is this what I truly want, or do I want the fantasy of it? If you want the fantasy of it, you'll never achieve it, ever. So that's why for me, it was just so important to remain grounded with the decisions I made and know that, you know, I also wanted to spend time with my fiance. I was like, fuck, I just want to hang out with you again, and I want to get like dinner with you. I want to get breakfast, and she was like, you can do that in 3 weeks. She was like, you can do that in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right. So
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, once she gave me that push.
What's her name?
What's
her name?
Amelia.
We need an Amelia, guys. My goddaughter's called Amelia anyway. I've got a goddaughter called Amelia. But you know what? Firstly, we all need an Amelia, Chris. We need an Amelia. And second thing, I feel like I'm Chris Wilkinson talking to C-Bum right now. I feel like I'm Chris Wilkinson talking to C-Bum. Is this modern wisdom? Is this a modern wisdom podcast? Is this a modern wisdom podcast? Listen, Chris, get a fucking clothing brand going, because in 5 years, 10 years time, I need this guy to sign up Jaxon to our clothing brand, just like Gymshark. I reckon I'm going to put money down. I reckon you'll be the next C-Bum.
You know what? I appreciate that. You know, I've said to myself though that if I can even become a tenth of the man that someone like C-Bum is, I'm happy. Like, I've always looked at, you know, people that inspire me, and I know that I'll never be like them, but if, you know, I can, you know, pass on values that they've given down to me, that's a very important thing. Because I remember watching C-Bum when I was in high school, and I was like, I want to do that. And, you know, that's why for me, it's like, you know, I'm not careful with what I say and the way I talk to people, but I'm just very conscious of the fact that people do listen to what I have to say, which I have such privilege in. But, you know, I'm at 25 now, I'm at a point in my life where, you know, I want to look back in 10, 20, 30 years and say, you know, I'm really happy that, you know, I've, you know, tried to be a role model for people that, you know, I wanted to look up to. So, you know, and that's the biggest thing is, you know, thank you for that. But, you know, if I could even be half the man he was, I'd be more than happy. But yeah.
Well, I do feel we are trying, and I think you've sat with us now to know how serious we take our podcast and the research we put in, right? And we do great intros, by the way. We do great intros. But Chris Wilkinson is Modern Wisdom is a podcast I looked at a long time ago, and I was telling Chris, like we always share podcasts, and I go, this is a really good podcast, you know? And it's funny, Chris loves Modern Wisdom because of the cinematography that goes on there, because Chris is a cinematographer.
Yeah, I'm watching on mute.
Huh?
I'm watching on mute.
Yeah, Chris will watch Chris Wilkinson on mute. He doesn't need to listen. Yeah. He just watches. So it's funny how I've kind of said you're like the C-Bum, and I feel like I'm Chris Wilkinson. And we've tried to create a cinematography aspect here with my Bromley behind me. But I do believe, I think you, I think, you know, I think why C-Bum has, I think, got to where he's got, I think you can't be anything but authentic. And I don't know, but I think the world just looks for that. And I think in bodybuilding, we look for that. And I think if you do everything you've just said by understanding people are listening to you. I probably haven't realized that myself, and I don't know, but we seem to be growing and we seem to get messages from people. Like I was at Metroflex on the weekend and people were coming up to me going, I listened to your podcast. And I went, oh, really? I go, is it good? I'm like, is it good? Is it good? You know what I mean? So, yeah, so it is. I think I really, you know what? I just think you're very lucky because I think faith will get you there. I don't think you're going to get there any other way. And I think that's the only way.
For sure.
And I think whether you're trying to imitate CBum, which you're not, and whether whether CBum has a strong faith, it does not matter. But the truth, you'll always be honest because you're being judged and it's not by us. And I think that's what's going to get you there. So I think good luck, man. I really, really, really think you will be quite the surprise, but you will be challenged. There's no denying you're going to be challenged, bro. You're going to be
For sure.
challenged.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to a few serious things before we finish, thinking we just spoke about serious things. What the fuck is Warhammer 40K? Do you know what Warhammer is, Chris? Tell us.
Well, you know what? So I've always loved like games and tabletop games. So, you know, have you ever seen those little like figurines like at those Games Workshop that you like paint and shit?
Well, kind of.
Yeah. So basically, you know, Warhammer 40K, it's been around for a long time. You know, it's been around the same time as around Dungeons and Dragons, but it's like a tabletop game, you know, where you've got different factions and stuff. And it's, you know, you got like the Imperium of Mankind, so you got like Space Marines and all that shit. And then you've got like the Orcs, and then you've got like Chaos, which is like the demon versions of Space Marines and demons. And then you've got like you know, heaps of factions in this giant universe, and it's incredible. Like I love playing it. I love, you know, like I love like painting figures and shit and like, you know, playing with them and stuff. I know how weird that sounds, but like, you know, I just love like the, you know, you build them up, you obviously buy them, and then you got to like piece them together and then paint them. And I love the process and the effort that it goes into it, you know, and, you know, especially as well with the, you know, new video games of Space Marine that's come out, you know, a few people love
computer games. You're like, computer gamer.
Love it, you know, like Call of Duty and stuff. And I love playing those games, and, you know, I just love doing what I like to do, and it just makes me have fun. And I play with friends I haven't seen in a while. I'm able to, you know, just enjoy it. And I think like, you know, Henry Cavill as Superman, you know, he loves Warhammer as well. He loves Warhammer. He loves like, you know, The Witcher and stuff, all those like fantasy, you know, type genres.
Yep.
And I love that stuff as well. And, you know, I can't deny that I'm a nerd. Like I'm a big nerd.
You are.
Like, I just love.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's a great hobby to be involved in. It's an expensive hobby, Warhammer, for sure.
Yeah.
The shit costs a lot of money, but it's great.
Well, obviously, attention to detail must take your mind away from things. Are you a gamer, Chris? Are you a gamer? No. I'm not a gamer, man. I don't know. My son's a gamer. You're a gamer. You're either a gamer or you're not, I guess. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because, like, with gaming, it's like, you either just enjoy it or you don't. And it's, like, not a bad thing if you don't enjoy it, you know. For some people, like, I just like sitting there and being in a different world sometimes and like, wow, like, the graphics are really cool. Or, like, playing, you know, like, just games with friends, like shooters and stuff, and just being able to talk and communicate with them. It's really fun, you know. I just love doing that, and it just takes my mind off training and working all the time, and you know, I think it's great. So I play Call of Duty with my son, and I don't make it around the first wall. I get smashed up, shot down, and once I shot him. So I ran over and I just started hammering into him with the gun, like I'm going to shoot this. Like I had rage. I was pounding bullets into that dead body. It's a rage-inducing game.
And you know what else is? You know what else is funny? I mean, you probably saw it on my story sometimes. But one of my cars, I've got an Evo 7, right? I got an Evo 7. Nice. Yeah. And the funniest thing is, I don't know why I bought it. I know. I'm going to tell you. I don't know why I bought it. I just buy cars, right? I just bought it because I've got a WRX, and I said, it's like getting a Holden and a Ford. So I said, why don't I just get a Lancer? I actually bought it for my kids. We lost them, Chris. I think his battery died. I thought him looking at his phone. He'll plug in. He'll come back. All right, let's have a moment. Oh, here he is. Are you back? You might need to fix the voice, Chris. Fix the voice. Is your battery died? Oh, no worries. 1 second. We're just fixing the voice. Are you fixing it, Chris?
We there?
Okay, I can hear you, yes. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to turn it on.
What happened? Battery?
My AirPods died, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Okay. I saw your eyes open up like it was Call of Duty. But what the funniest thing is, I bought these cars, and my kids are not allowed to drive them. I didn't know P-platers can't drive these cars, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So what the funniest was, I've had different cars, but every time I drive the Evo, I get everyone pulling up beside me going, hey, mate, love your Evo. I see kids pulling their mum's dresses saying, it's an Evo, mum. And I'm going like, I said to Yanni, my son, I go, what is it about this car? People pull up to be, nice car, mate. Nice this, mate. Oh, you got an Evo, mate. And they said to me, well, Dad, it's I think it's in Grand Theft Auto. And it's also Fast and the Furious. And I went, oh, so I didn't even know all that. But like I said to you, that's the only thing I know from gaming.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's, people will recognize cars from like Fast and Furious or, you know, movies or games for sure. People love it.
Okay, so wow, we've covered so much, man, and I'm just looking where else I could talk about, but I think 3 more things, then we'll go over the body. But you talk about, I'll tell you now, I'm going to bring up because it's in your intro. Oh, no, I've got it here. That's how we do a podcast, mate. Don't fit in and don't be a people pleaser. Believe in yourself. Wait, and one more. And your English teacher.
Ah, yeah.
Get him to cry, Chris. I'm going to get him to cry. No.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, you're going to be good at that, man.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I think being a people pleaser was something that I was a massive people pleaser when I was younger, because obviously I had no friends and I didn't really have many people to turn to and you know, share my relationships with. And you know, for me, I was very, you know, fixated on trying to be liked and be accepted as a person within, you know, the social construct of school. But, you know, it got to a point where I started realizing that, you know what, like, I'm not meant to have tons of friends. Like, I'd rather have just a few quality friends. Yeah. And I started also just focusing on, you know, asking people questions about themselves and sort of the psychology behind, you know, like how to create like deep and meaningful relationships. And so that really sparked from me, you know, not, you know, being a people pleaser where, you know, sucking up to people, but just genuinely being interested about who they are as a person. Yeah. And, you know, from that, you know, I was able to, you know, I became a, you know, house captain in school. I was an SRC captain. You know, I was in multiple public speaking, you know, events. And so for me, I was very fixated on, you know, just being myself. And so once that really occurred, you know, I found that I was actually able to foster greater relationships by not being a suck up to people and just being myself. Yep. And also too, you know, I could also attest this to my old English teacher. He had a very, very large impact on my life in high school. So, you know, I don't think I told you, but when I recently moved to my last school at Blackburn, you know, I remember I was still very defensive, very violent kid. And so at the time, you know, I remember beating up this kid who like picked on me straight away. Like this is like first 2 weeks of school.
I told you, when the 1 week guys, once you've started, you don't give anyone room.
Yeah, and that was it. I just said, no way, I'm doing this again. So I just beat him up, and unfortunately, I sent him to the emergency room in the hospital, and I got suspended for that.
Of course.
So I had an English teacher called Mr. Veazey. His name was Jeff Veazey, and he was very strict, and I hated that. And he was always like just on my ass for shit. And I was just like, can this guy just leave me alone? Like, I just want to do what I want. And, you know, there was multiple times where I was very rebellious when I was in that year of year 8 14 years old, you know, I just walk out of the class. I just wag school, go home, and pretend I was there, but I didn't. I just go do what I wanted all day, and I just didn't care. Sometimes I just went home, and you know, I was very careless. I didn't really care about other people around me at the time. I was very defensive, of course, and you know, thanks to him, he was incredibly hard on me because you know he taught me a lot of incredible values to instill that have been instilled in me to this very day. But because of him, though, you know, I was able to also talk to him sometimes. You know, I remember when, you know, my later years in high school where, you know, I was, in my opinion, doing very well for myself and, you know, my studies and my leadership courses, there was a time where I actually did crack a bit with that same kid. He started arcing up a little bit and I just like cracked it. I flipped the table. I was like full bodybuilding at this point. Yeah. So, you know, and I realized like I can't go back to being like a person like this. And so thanks to him, you know, he moved from being an English teacher to, you know, being a vice principal. So I just went to his office and I said, hey man, like I just need to have a chat. Like I lost it at somebody, and, you know, he was telling me like, it's okay because, you know, it's okay to not always, you know, be completely calm and collected, but, you know, you need to understand that those feelings do happen. And and thanks to him, you know, he pretty much like saved my life, because otherwise if I just didn't care and I just went on the route I was going on, I probably would have ended up in jail or dead. So, you know, thanks to him, he left a massive impact on my life. And I remember he told me like, you know, you're going to do some great things after high school. And and pretty much, you know, I always told him, hey, I'm going to come back to school. I'm going to come back to my school and, you know, give a speech, and I want to be a pro bodybuilder and, you know, inspire these younger children to do what they want to do. But, you know, then 2019 rolled around and like, you know, 2020, and I found out my mum came and she's like, hey, like, I'm telling you, like, you know, remember Mr. V's? I'm like, yeah, like, how's he going? He's like, oh, you know, he passed away, he had a heart attack. And I felt terrible. So, you know, I was able to watch the funeral online, but, you know, that year was also really hard because a few months earlier to that, my uncle passed away. Like he had bowel cancer, and it just took him like that. So, you know, I lost a few great people in my life already and some family. So that was really, really hard. But the things that he taught me is stuff I will probably pass on to my children. So, you know, like I didn't really have anybody to turn towards because, you know, I was suffering a lot. I was suffering a lot as a teenager. I hated the way I was as a person. I hated my life. I really did. And thanks to him, I was able to use all my insecurities about myself, my anger and my violence as a person, and I was able to turn that into something that could help people. And that's something that no one ever taught me to do. And that's why, because of him, you know, like when I do stuff, I think about the people that I do it for, aside from like family and friends, and like it's the people that I looked up to. And when he said, you know, if, you know, he genuinely cared about, you know, the future of what my generation was going to do. And like, honestly, if there was more people on this earth like him, the world would be a better place. And like, you know, you fucking make me emotional, bro. Why'd you do this? You know, the one thing I just, you know, regret was not being able to see him for a last time and come back to school, because I know he would have loved that. So, you know, I made a promise to myself to go back to my high school and to talk to the kids about it, because, you know, like it's such an important thing. It can really shape your life or it can ruin it. So, and I think that's why for me, you know, like if someone like me can come out of being this weird, isolated, you know, defensive kid who is incredibly violent to someone who can try to help people, you know, I think people like that in our lives, like we all need a Mr. Beasy. You know, he was amazing. So he really changed my life. He changed my life for the better. And, you know, thanks to him, like I started to believe myself for once. And yeah, it really was hard. It was very, very hard. not having someone like that I can just go back to and talk about, because, you know, like I really wanted to make people like that proud and come back after high school and be like, hey, look what I've done, look what I've achieved. But, you know, it sucks. So, yeah.
Must have been hard not to go to his funeral too.
It's terrible. That same year as well, you know, I lost a friend who was, you know, a few years younger than me. He was like 18, you know, and I was able to go to his funeral though, which was great. But he just started training, and his last picture on his Instagram was of him and I. And that was just a fucking shit year. It was terrible. I felt crap. Like, as much as, you know, I was training and, you know, lockdown was stuffing up everyone. The fact that I had to go to 3 funerals in 1 year was hard, because I never lost anyone prior to that, except my grandfather in 2014. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in my life. But yeah, like, we all had challenges, but, you know, it's about how you face them and how you lean into those emotions, and then how you can say, okay, well, you know, like, these things in life are going to happen, but it's about how, as a person, I can, you know, keep moving forward and keep achieving the goals I've set out for myself. So yeah, it's okay to be emotional, for sure.
What did your friend die from?
When I remember, he overdosed on drugs.
Yeah.
You know, he was found the next day in his room by his parents. And that was really, really hard, because, you know, I didn't really talk to him that much for a few months. But, you know, he always said, oh, you know, I want to look like you. And he always asked me training advice. And it was really, really hard. Like, someone at the age of like 18, 19, you know, they got their whole life ahead of them. Like, it's just unfair. And that's why, you know, like, at the time I was like, as if there, you know, why would a God exist that would take life away from someone like that?
Yeah.
Oh, and I became a very, very bitter person because of it, you know. And yeah, it really, you know, it really stuffed me up for a long time. And like, it was just really tough, because I was never someone, whenever I go to funerals, I'd never cry. I would just have a straight face. And I started to think, like, am I just a very cold person? But, you know, it was just the way I would, you know, deal with stuff, you know. So everyone has their own coping mechanisms. You know?
I just see, you know, I just see a great guy in front of me, man. Honestly, you're I think this is the first podcast I've never really interrupted, and also I was using a reporter's tool by sitting back and waiting for you to cry. So I thought I'd sit back and let you talk, but I don't like to be too serious too long. You probably noticed that. I'm the worst person in a business meeting. You give me 15 minutes later, and then I like, are we still going? But I really appreciate you sharing. Some of you guys are incredible. Honestly, people like Chris, people like you. I can't believe there's fucking 25-year-olds, 24-year-olds like you guys. Like, I'm so proud of you guys. It's good to see some good. Like, my goal is for my son to be better. I want him to be, but to be better than me, I'm gonna have to work hard to hold that bar so he can beat it. So he actually makes you guys make me work. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is you guys are making me work for it, and I want to work.
Yeah.
Because I watch you guys, but also my daughter too. Like, I'm putting it out there for girls as well. But I really hope people get to listen to this podcast when we do launch it. I mean, you know, yeah, like Jaxon, it's funny, you know, we look at each other, we look at all bodybuilders, and we all look like meatheads. That's how we look, right? It's a meathead world. We all think we're angry. We look like angry guys, right?
Especially when training.
And we look like we don't have anything between our ears because we train. But you guys have changed the gym bro thing. You guys have done something, and it's a fight. You guys are taking the baton on to show us, like Dr. Ash, he's a dentist, veterinarian, just these amazing guys like yourself. And you did stuff in school, academia, but bodybuilding, it's just wonderful to see. So I just want to, before we go over the body and finish up, like I said to you, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I've seen bodybuilders on here. I've seen big boys, but and I don't have favoritism, but there's something I need to be watching this space with you, and I hope that you go fucking for it. And I'm saying relentless, because I'll say something to you so you know. I believe, and this is the only reason I can stay with faith, I believe that Jesus was no wimp. He sat with gangsters, debt collectors, prostitutes. He sat with the worst. And I don't believe he just, which he did, wear a white robe and some thongs. I believe he could kick the fucking door down and storm into a room and save someone. He was tough. He was strong. He was savage. And he knew, if I can't convince him, I've got to keep moving. So he wasn't a people pleaser. He just told you the message. I need followers. You coming with me? Because I'm going for it. So I need you to carry that for you through bodybuilding. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope so. God, Jesus Christ, you're going to make me cry. Hey, guys, this episode is brought to you by our premium Australian supplement company, Primabolics. Best protein and pre-workouts and more on the market. Please go to primabolics.com.au, enter the amazing discount code MuscleTalks15 to get 15% off. All right, let's go over the body. All right? Okay, let's go over the body. I'm going to tell you a body part. I just need an exercise, sets and reps. It's not a routine. It's just an exercise. All right? So,
this is exciting.
Yeah, this is a cool one. So I'm going to go through the whole body pretending I'm in the 90s. So we're in the 90s now. All right, we're the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're starting with traps. Trap exercise.
Oh, done. Barbell shrugs.
Yeah.
2 sets, 15 reps, 2-second pause at the bottom.
Okay, great. All right, we're going with delts, side delts.
Oh, yeah. Dumbbell lateral raises seated, 2 sets, 15 to 20 reps.
Lovely. This is the best one out. All right, front delts.
Oh. Frontal dumbbell raises, heavy, 2 sets, 8 to 10 reps.
Okay. Rear delts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Incline,
Yeah.
dumbbell Y raises, 2 sets of 12 to 15 reps.
Lovely. Back.
Bent over barbell rows,
Oh, that's the 90s.
1 set, 8 to 12 reps.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's all we did. Chest. Any chest, doesn't matter. Just a chest.
Dumbbell incline bench press, 1 to 2 sets, 8 to 12 reps, heavy.
Lovely. Bicep.
OG, standing barbell curl,
Oh,
2 sets, 15 to 20.
good old fucking barbell curls. You can't go wrong. Tricep.
I would go weighted dips,
Mm,
2 sets of 10 to 12.
lovely. Yesterday I did skull crushers. I thought I'd go skull crushers. Hey?
Yeah, they're good.
They're good, the skull crushers. All right. I know everyone laughs at this, but it was pretty mandatory when we were in the 90s. Forearms.
Forearms. Oh, OG dumbbell single arm forearm raises
Yeah.
on a preacher curl.
Yeah.
Do 2 sets of 20 to 25 reps.
Okay, lovely. Abs.
Hanging leg raises.
Yeah.
3 sets of 20 to 30 reps.
Oh, God's sake. I can't get past 15, but I will try it. Quads. Oh, here we are.
Oh. Barbell squats.
Oh, yeah. God, he's gone real 90s. Yeah.
1 set.
Mm.
20 to 50 reps.
Oh, Chris, you got to post that. All the influencers are going to go for this one. They're going to attack this. Yeah. Mark that time, Chris, please. I need this one posted. Hammies.
Making this hard for me. Barbell Romanian deadlifts.
Yep.
Heavy, 8 to 12 reps, one
Okay.
set.
I still can't get over the quads. Wow. Jesus Christ. Excuse me, glutes.
Barbell hip thrusts.
Mm-hmm.
2 sets of 12 to 15. Heavy as fucking possible.
Okay. Why are girls, I mean, look, they're probably not doing it right, but I don't know this because I've been studying it like crazy and I'm listening to everyone. But how come girls look like they can hip thrust more than I can deadlift?
You know what? It's funny because women, they obviously train their glutes with way more efficiency and way more frequency than what men would do.
Okay.
And I think that women have really mastered, like, you know, a lot of glute exercises because they obviously, you know, they execute them so much. So, and I think because also too, you know, a lot of the, like, you know, if a female is training glutes effectively, they train hard, they eat a lot of food, they're going to build a lot of muscle tissue there as well. And I think, you know, getting a female compared to like an average Joe that, like, you know, doesn't really train with a female that trains a lot, especially with their glutes, like a bikini or a wellness athlete, you know, they're going to be so much better at training than, you know, the average Joe that goes in once or twice a week, that doesn't really even train their glutes, in my opinion. So as a female, like, yeah, some of them are just so strong, like it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think that would be why they have better exercise, like execution, and also too, they're more muscle and they're just generally more stronger. And they're more used to the movement as well.
Yeah, I just didn't know the ass had a muscle. I didn't know that, but I feel like the biggest hypocrite. And now I've got to try to get my ass up because, you know, we all liked it. In the 90s, we bagged people with fat asses. We bagged them.
Yeah. And you know what's the funny thing, man? What do you think the biggest muscle in the whole body is?
Don't tell me it's the ass.
Yep.
It's the ass, Chris. Chris fits in now.
The glutes?
Yeah, Chris fits in, yeah.
There you go, Chris. That's not a bad.
Actually, Chris is. I think Chris has got some natural genetics. I might just. I might get him training, smack him up with every single drug, tattoo Muscle Talks podcast on his back, and just use him as some kind of guinea pig for me. For you know,
Subject.
say as a subject. Calves.
'90s, there were Smith machines. All right. I'll do a Smith machine standing calf raise. 2 sets, 30 to 50 reps.
Chris, document that time. Tibialis. I know many don't do it, but I'm watching people at the moment starting to play around with tibialis. I think they're mimicking me because I've been doing tibialis for the last year.
Yeah. Oh. I do even like a seated calf raise. 2 sets of 15 to 20.
I'll tell you what is if people want to train their tibialis and they don't know what to do, I'll do a hack. You can actually grab your bumper plates, right, and just put them over your foot and just raise your foot 20 times and you're training your tibialis. You could be sitting here training tibialis, just put a bumper plate on the top of your foot and lift it. And you're training tibialis. That's very simple. Now,
true. You can do that as well.
Yeah. So usually this is where we go promote yourself. But wait, I want to know, what did you think of Olympia this year? Just some bits and pieces.
I think it was probably the best Olympia we've seen in a long time.
I think so too.
I think Samson deserved it for sure. Well, I was watching the live stream at Doherty's with the gang, and you know, when I said, you know, if Derek comes third, Samson's won, and you know, Samson looked incredible, and I think he'll win it again for sure. He's just such a massive guy. Seabum, of course, he's on a league of his own, like always.
Yeah.
Men's physique, I didn't really follow that much. Ryan Perry looks great there for sure. Bikini, I can leave that criteria of judging to the judges, to Scott Goebel himself, who's the bikini master, and Troy Thornton, all those guys. Like, I don't really know what they're looking for, so I don't really know. But honestly, it was probably the most exciting Olympia I've probably seen to date.
Yeah, something about this Olympia just I think post-COVID, everyone was just trying to put on this shock and all type of shows and bring it back and what we lost.
Mm.
But I think this show settled down and just did a great show, and I think it was perfect. So
For sure. They weren't trying to sort of like, have this bounce back from COVID. And I think that's why it was such a good show, because they just wanted to show off bodybuilding as in its raw form, and which is what made it great.
well, where can we find you, Jaxon?
You can find me on a few things. You can find me on YouTube. That's my full name, Jaxon Guerin. And then Instagram is just my full name again, Jaxon Guerin. So you can find me on mainly those two. I post pretty consistently on. I do have Facebook, but that's private. So pretty much, that's where you can find me. If you want to spell it out, it's Jaxon, then Guerin is Guerin, and you'll be able to find me straight away.
Mate, what a great podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure. No, thank you. This is, I do say how much I love being on podcasts, but this was so far probably my favorite for sure.
Wow.
A lot of great questions and just very in depth. And I like what you guys are doing, and I think it's really great. So, please keep it up. I had so much fun. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, we feel like we're the Tonight Show for bodybuilding, and I'm Jimmy Fallon.
I love that. Respect. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how we're doing it. Thanks, man.
That's it.